Vol. 2, Chapter 1345, Visari. In the enigmatic database of the Mothership Glory, a repository of many formidable technologies exists. These technologies, often of non-human origin, include the advanced innovations of the Protoss, the Zerg, the Geth, and notably the Visari. Among these, the technology of the Forerunners from Halo stands out for its potential to overwhelm the galaxy with its power. However, a significant barrier prevents their utilization: the inability to decipher their language. The scripts, grammar, and even the form of communication, ranging from written characters to consciousness-based transmissions, are entirely alien. This issue is not limited to the Forerunners. The Protoss and Visari technologies, too, are encoded in their unique scripts or consciousness forms, making them inaccessible. It seems the only feasible way to harness these technologies is by reviving their respective races, allowing them to interpret and develop their ancient innovations. Tang Xiao suspects this necessity might have been by design, to ensure the revival and propagation of these races. The Mothership Glory houses over 100 different races, each with its origins and purposes shrouded in mystery. Among them, the Visari, from the game Original Sin of a Solar Empire, are distinguished by their technological prowess. With a history that once saw them dominating an entire star system and establishing a vast empire, their achievements in nanotechnology, space travel, and dimensional engineering were unparalleled. Their empire was a network of stargates connecting every corner of their domain, protected by a formidable dark fleet, under which countless races submitted. However, at the height of their power, a catastrophic darkness engulfed their core world, severing all connections and swallowing anything that ventured into it. The Visari dispatched their elite dark fleet to confront this threat, but it vanished without a trace, leaving no clue as to its fate. This encroaching darkness continued to spread, consuming more galaxies and leaving the Visari powerless to stop it. In desperation, they abandoned their empire, fleeing into the unknown to escape the relentless advance of the darkness. The narrative of Original Sin of a Solar Empire 2 reveals the aftermath of their flight. The Visari found themselves divided in their new refuge. Some, known as the Visari Loyalists, advocated for continuous flight, adopting a scorched earth policy against any potential threats. They destroyed anything they couldn't take with them, focusing solely on survival and evading the mysterious darkness. Others grew weary of the endless flight and the confines of their warships. Despite the luxury they could afford in their vessels, it paled in comparison to the stability and peace of settling on a new world. These Visari, tired of running and yearning for a semblance of their former glory, sought to establish a new empire, one where they could finally stand against the darkness that had chased them across the stars. With their feet firmly planted on the ground and the vast blue sky stretching above, the Visari rebels harbored hopes of forging an alliance with the local inhabitants. Their goal was to rebuild their homeland and collaboratively devise a strategy to confront the looming darkness once more. These individuals were branded as rebels because the Visari loyalists accused them of forsaking the traditions of the Visari Empire. However, it was the Visari rebel faction that Tang Xiao managed to awaken, and it was only with them that an agreement seemed feasible. Unlike the Loyalists, who persisted in viewing other races as mere slaves and showed no interest in reconstructing their homeland, the rebels were markedly more progressive. They had started to move away from slavery, seeking to live in harmony with other formidable races on equal terms, and were in dire need of a stable homeland. These aspirations aligned perfectly with what Tang Xiao could offer. The planet Karl, deserted for over 20,000 years and only recently beginning to show signs of revival, represented an ideal settlement for the Visari. With a diameter exceeding 10,000 kilometers and a hospitable climate, the planet was sparsely populated by 4.5 million human immigrants who lacked any significant heritage or background, making it an ideal location for the Visari to establish themselves. In return, the Visari could provide Tang Xiao with their highly advanced shipbuilding and nanomaterial technologies. However, their most astonishing contribution was their Stargate technology. In the galaxy of Star Wars, all intergalactic navigation and communication depended on hyperspace technology, which involved traveling at superluminal speeds along predetermined paths within the high-dimensional hyperspace. Despite its advantages, the fixed nature of hyperspace channels, influenced by the stability of hyperspace and the mass projections of major stars, posed significant limitations on hyperspace navigation. For millennia, these channels had remained largely unchanged, both facilitating and constraining the development of other superluminal navigation technologies and dictating the fixed routes of intergalactic travel. In stark contrast, the Vasari's Stargate technology allowed fleets to travel directly between 2 points in the galaxy at superluminal speeds, completely bypassing the constraints of hyperspace channels. This groundbreaking technology promised to revolutionize intergalactic navigation and communication, offering unprecedented flexibility and efficiency in traversing the vast expanses of the Milky Way. Vol 2, Chapter 1346, The New Core Race. If our family can live and thrive on this planet, it would be an excellent choice for us, Your Excellency Governor. High Priest Shadili, observing the sunny landscape, nodded in approval. The Vasari people's voices are notably deep, rough, and somewhat grating, with a pronounced nasal quality that makes their normal speech sound almost like a roar. In this galaxy, we are all foreigners, High Priest Shadili. Everything we desire must be claimed with steel and blood, Tang Xiao stated, hands clasped behind his back. Our options are to either conquer countless planets or none at all. There is no middle ground. True ownership comes only through conquest. Hoping for peace to grant us what we want is futile, Shadili responded with a grin. Oh? Are you implying that this is merely charity on my part? Tang Xiao inquired, turning to face him. That depends on your view of us, Shadili retorted. I offer you the chance to become the core race of the fourth civilization, Vasari. As you've said, all must be earned, Tang Xiao declared. Before that, I will do everything within my power to assist your race in flourishing. How much time do we have? Shadili asked eagerly. About 30 years, Tang Xiao answered. We have 5 million frozen embryos. 30 years is just one generation for us. It's insufficient. We need servants, Shadili insisted. Tang Xiao shook his head. Introducing too many races could disrupt the current social structure of the fourth civilization. I carefully consider each race I awaken. For now, the B1 robots will suffice for your needs, in whatever quantity you require. Additionally, the Gnolls, servant race of the Solarians, can be allocated to you. We've also had recent immigrants from the Rendili galaxy who can serve as labor. After a moment's thought, he added, However, I recommend hiring a large number of Vathians. This immense insect race excels in engineering, particularly in large-scale projects. Yes, I will first awaken our creature temples. They will aid in the proliferation of our race, Shadili declared. Moreover, we require a planet abundant with volcanoes. Yes, but for what purpose? Tang Xiao inquired. We possess a unique technology that allows us to harness the energy of volcanoes to power our industry. In our empire, every volcanic planet was a major industrial hub, Shadili explained. Volcanic planet. Tang Xiao's expression turned thoughtful. Mustafar fits your description and is within our control. It's a secret base established by the corporate alliance. As long as you don't interfere with their operations, you can utilize the rest of the planet as you wish, including the Mustafarians, who number only a few 100,000. When you're ready, I'll coordinate with the corporate alliance. Despite his words, Tang Xiao's mind was preoccupied with the events that unfolded on Mustafar in the original storyline. General Grievous's failed raid on Coruscant led him to flee to Utapau, where he was ultimately killed by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Subsequently, leaders of corporate giants, including Newt Gunray of the Trade Federation, Thornhill of the Interstellar Banking Association, and Wat Tambor of the Techno Union, sought refuge in secret bases on Mustafar. Newt Gunray's deactivation of all battle droids marked the end of the Clone Wars. However, they were all eliminated by Anakin Skywalker, effectively dismantling the leadership of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. The arrival of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Padme Amidala on Mustafar led to a tragic confrontation, culminating in the infamous duel where Anakin was defeated. Tang Xiao pondered the fate of Anakin Skywalker, whose journey from a promising Jedi to the feared Darth Vader was marked by pain, anger, and a tragic fall into the dark side. He wondered, If the planet Mustafar were entrusted to the Vasari, would the events that led to such a transformation still occur? Where would that leave Anakin Skywalker? Tang Xiao had been closely monitoring Anakin, using his intelligence torque to gather information on every battle the young Jedi participated in. He observed Anakin's increasingly radical actions, indicative of the light side's diminishing influence and the dark side's growing presence, awaiting only a final push to emerge fully. The question of whether Darth Vader would still come into being lingered in Tang Xiao's mind, a slight smile playing on his lips as he considered the possibilities. He turned his attention to High Priest Shadili, standing before him, and suggested, "As you focus on development and habitation, I recommend prioritizing the establishment of scientific research units. There are numerous industrial worlds willing to collaborate with you to meet your needs." Shadili laughed heartily. "I understand your intentions, and I know what I seek. Thus, we now share a common enemy, the Galactic Republic." The Vasari, despite their inherent tendencies towards force and conquest, were remarkably open to forming alliances with other races, a trait underscored by their experiences with the indescribable darkness in the original Sins of a Solar Empire storyline. They, more than anyone, understood the critical importance of unity. This understanding was not unique to the Vasari. The Protoss, too, would come to realize the value of unity, albeit too late to save Aur. Like the Solarians and Protoss, you will possess independent legislative and military powers. However, as a member of the Fourth Civilization, diplomatic and constitutional powers will remain with the top leadership. When suitable candidates are identified, you may send representatives to join this leadership, Tang Xiao explained, affirming their right to establish an independent military force. "This is precisely what I desire, Your Excellency, Governor." Shadili responded, touching his forehead and then Tang Xiao's, a Vasari gesture of deep friendship. However, their exchange was abruptly interrupted by an incoming communication, causing Tang Xiao's expression to darken. The caller was Zekalas, a member of the Protoss. This unexpected message hinted at new developments that could potentially alter their carefully laid plans. Attachment 1 of the Easter egg chapter, the Vasari battleship, is styled in this manner. Please remember the first domain name of this book, website address. Vol 2, Chapter 1347, Mysterious Power. After receiving the communication from Zakaras, Tang Xiao's mood plummeted. He was aware that Gabriel Tosh had been gravely injured in the Kona galaxy, and it was the Protoss who had come to his rescue. Under normal circumstances, it would be nearly impossible for an ordinary person to inflict such damage on Tosh, suggesting the involvement of a Jedi Knight. Tosh's injury was linked to the Galactic Republic's assault on the planet Semirs, adding a layer of intrigue to the event. Even now, the Republic fleet in the Semirs galaxy continued its stubborn resistance, launching a frenzied attack on the shipyard of the Infinity-class super aircraft carrier, strategically hidden between the planet and the interstellar base. The battle had escalated into a tragic confrontation involving not just the Galactic Republic's fleet, but also the Semirs and the Trench fleet defending the area. The Republic fleet's relentless counterattack rendered all tactics ineffective, leading to a direct and brutal clash. Even the experimental Catastrophe-class battlecruiser, armed with a particle light spear, was forced to advance, reducing the distance to 5 light minutes to provide long-range fire support. The planet Semilas had become a veritable meat grinder. Gabriel Tosh, having first uncovered this information, undoubtedly held crucial details yet to be revealed. It was known that a practitioner of the dark side of the Force had injured him, but the assailant's identity remained a mystery. The list of suspects was long, including Darth Sidious, Count Dooku, and the Sisterhood of the Night, all of whom wielded the dark side of the Force and had motives for their actions. Despite Tang Xiao's current alliance with Count Dooku, he was acutely aware of Dooku's fear of him, which was no less than that of Darth Sidious. Thus, Tang Xiao tasked Zakaras with investigating the matter, confident in the Protoss's unparalleled investigative capabilities in the galaxy. The results were now in. "I have identified the force that attacked Gabriel Tosh, but I require your confirmation, Your Excellency Governor," Zakaras reported. "I'll be there shortly." Tang Xiao responded immediately. This race that communicates through robots, Are they the Protoss you mentioned earlier? Shadili inquired, his curiosity piqued. I'm eager to see this race renowned for its strength. Let's discover what makes them exceptional. Then join me. But please, avoid any conflicts. We share a common goal now, Tang Xiao cautioned. Of course, Shadili agreed. The shuttle descended gently onto the secretive Del Rey 2 satellite. The temple, originally constructed by Lucian Del Rey to preserve the Jedi Covenant, had undergone significant transformations. The original structures had been remodeled, leaving only a few hidden buildings intact. Upon entering this complex, which resembled a small town, everything shimmered in gold. In the interstellar era, gold had lost its value as a scarce resource. With more than 10 asteroids composed entirely of gold within the jurisdiction of the Fourth Civilization, not to mention the mineral-rich planets, gold had become a common decorative material, especially favored by the Protoss. In collaboration with the Geth, the Protoss had transformed this location into a highly automated settlement and experimental center, complete with factories, residences, laboratories, meditation rooms, spaceports, and shipyards. They named this place Rono, meaning the City of Guidance. As they disembarked from the shuttle and made their way to the deepest psionic lab, guided by a Geth, Tang Xiao glanced at a training ground. There, a group of teenagers was receiving instruction from a priestess. Sensing his presence, the priestess looked in his direction and saluted. Tang Xiao nodded in acknowledgement, recognizing this place as the future of the Fourth Civilization. In the midst of the Twilight Covenant, an organization renowned for nurturing force-sensitive individuals from childhood, Tang Xiao made a startling discovery. Among the young trainees, there was an Injoli, a creature far larger and more formidable than any he had encountered before. Its scales were a glossy black, lending it a particularly menacing appearance. This Injoli, known as Karina, was unique for her sensitivity to the Force. She had distinguished herself in the battle for the Ariadu planet, earning significant military honors. It was surprising to find her among the trainees of the Twilight Covenant. As Tang Xiao continued his inspection, he noticed a man with a scarred face and a burly physique attempting to soften his appearance with a suit. The man was engrossed in a game on his wrist-mounted universal tool. Despite his distraction, he was quick to notice Tang Xiao, promptly turning off his game to greet him with a salute. "Your Excellency," he said. "Shen Yuanhao? Shouldn't you be supervising the Injori planet, coordinating the affairs of the Injori people instead of idling here?" Tang Xiao inquired with a hint of disapproval. Shen Yuanhao quickly explained, "Karina's force recently began to show signs of instability, prompting me to send her here for adjustment." "Instability? And you thought it wise to place someone with an unstable force among these children?" Tang Xiao questioned, his frown deepening. Shen Yuanhao responded, "The priestess believed that Karina needed foundational force training to gain better control. Learning alongside these children was deemed appropriate. The priestess assured that Karina's force would remain stable under her guidance." Acknowledging the explanation, Tang Xiao gestured for Shen Yuanhao to step aside and proceeded to the spiritual laboratory located 10 floors underground. Zakaras and Gabriel Tosh were already there, awaiting his arrival. "Your Excellency, I've extracted the dark power that infiltrated Gabriel Tosh's mind and await your instructions." Zakaras communicated telepathically, adding, "We continue to explore the original force, a domain where you are the true expert." Tang Xiao nodded, turning his attention to Tosh. "We'll address your situation shortly. First, let's examine the power you've extracted." "This power is profoundly malevolent and peculiar," Tosh remarked. Shadili, overhearing the conversation, inquired in a gruff tone, "You are a Protoss, from the empire that once ruled the galaxy?" "I am indeed a Protoss, the first son of God, heir to Kara. However, we have never sought dominion, nor are we an empire," Zakaras responded calmly, though a trace of irritation tinged his thoughts. "Telepathy. Fascinating. It seems you are indeed worthy to join us," Shadili commented, intrigued. Zakaras chose not to broadcast his reply telepathically this time, instead sending a message directly to Shadili, who responded dismissively, "Ha! Spare me your flattery. If we weren't focused on rebuilding our homeland, and if the Dark Fleet were here, your arrogance would be reduced to cosmic dust." The conversation took a contentious turn, with Shadili mocking the Protoss and reminiscing about how they had corrupted the Holy Spirit messengers during the war. "Enough!" Tang Xiao interjected sharply, his command infused with the force of the dark side, pushing both disputants away. His mastery over the dark side was precise, ensuring Tosh remained unaffected. However, at that moment, Tang Xiao sensed something amiss in the laboratory. The dark side force had alerted him to an anomaly. Zakaris, too, sensed the disturbance, their attention now fully on the unfolding situation. Having had enough of arguing with Shadili, Tang Xiao immediately turned and made his way back to the laboratory. His attention was quickly captured by Zakalis' voice in his mind. "Your Excellency, the dark power we've extracted has vanished." Upon entering, Tang Xiao was greeted by the sight of a light blue orb of light, suspended within a golden apparatus, noticeably devoid of any content. We had successfully extracted the dark power that had infiltrated Tosh's mind, confining it here with psionic energy. However, moments ago, it disappeared, likely sensing your presence, Zakalis explained. A shadow fell over Tang Xiao's features as he responded. "Indeed, I felt its presence as well, the rough Primarch." Zakalis, puzzled, inquired further. "We understand that the force within living beings is termed mycoplasma. But what exactly is a rough protoplasm? It seems to be the antithesis of a midiplasm." "I'll provide you with a manuscript on the rough body later. The individual who mastered it once shared all his knowledge with me, including the secrets of the rough body," Tang Xiao replied, his tone icy. "You're acquainted with this individual?" Zakalis pressed. "Yes, in this galaxy, he and I are the only ones versed in the knowledge and application of the rough body. Moreover, his mastery over it is unparalleled," Tang Xiao stated, his expression darkening further. "What are our next steps?" Zakalis asked. "I must return to Dawn Star immediately. This situation is highly problematic," Tang Xiao declared, heading towards the exit. He paused to pat Gabriel Tosh on the shoulder, saying, "Come with me. I can heal your wounds aboard the spaceship." As they followed Tang Xiao, Shadili couldn't resist taunting Zakalis. "Ah, the inept telepath. Our paths will cross again. I eagerly anticipate discovering the extent of your strength." Once aboard the shuttle, Tang Xiao instructed Tosh to meditate, placing his hand on Tosh's forehead as he began to channel the force of life. He realized the severity of Tosh's injuries inflicted by the rough body. Without Tang Xiao's intervention, Tosh's future would have been bleak, reduced to a shadow of his former self due to the extensive nerve damage. Despite appearing normal under medical examination, any use of the force would trigger catastrophic consequences. Fortunately for Tosh, he was under the care of the galaxy's most formidable force healer, the Dark Sith Lord, Darth Malthael. With unmatched precision, the force of life mended the intricate damage within Tosh's brain, a feat beyond the capabilities of even the most advanced medical technology. As the gas giant of Endor came into view outside the shuttle, Tosh regained consciousness. Gratefully, he addressed Darth Malthael. "I owe you my life, Governor." Darth Malthael responded, "You will require additional treatments. The force within this individual is peculiarly weak, yet bizarrely potent. Caution is advised, even for me. You will remain under my supervision for the time being." Turning to Shadili, he inquired, "What did you say to Zakalis?" Shadili scoffed, a race mired in past glories, refusing to evolve. Their obstinacy and obsession with purity are as irksome as the Holy Spirit's messengers. Such traits make them our least favored race. It was evident that the Vasari and the Protoss were inherently incompatible, a sentiment echoed in the original sin of a solar empire, where the Holy Spirit's messengers bore a striking resemblance to the Protoss, especially in their mental prowess and racial purity. In light of this, it's best to minimize your interactions with the Protoss, Darth Malthael advised before dismissing the conversation. Shortly after, the shuttle touched down on the Glory Mothership. Gabriel Tosh proceeded to the medical facility for further examination, while Shadili bid Darth Malthael farewell, returning to the planet Cal to commence his next venture. Darth Malthael, after returning to his office, discreetly made his way to a highly secretive chamber via a concealed elevator. This chamber, shrouded in shadows, housed a remarkable piece of technology, a Bacta tank. This tank, positioned prominently in one corner of the room, was continuously filled with the most refined and expensive Bacta fluid. Its purpose was singular, yet profound, to preserve the body of a notable figure, the Bis, Darth Tenebris himself. Darth Tenebris was not only the mentor of Darth Plagueis, but also the forebear of Darth Malthael. His significance extended further as he was the pioneering Sith Lord to harness and utilize the power of the crude e-body. It was this very power that had nearly rendered Gabriel Tosh incapacitated. As Darth Malthael stood before the tank, his gaze fixed on the preserved corpse of his ancestor. His expression darkened, mirroring the depths of a tumultuous sea. With a voice laced with venom and determination, he addressed the silent figure before him. "Do you believe you can toy with me, Darth Tenebris?" This moment underscored the gravity of Darth Malthael's quest, a quest not only for power, but also for the reclamation and revival of his lineage. The stakes were high, and the path fraught with peril, yet his resolve remained unshaken. The legacy of the Sith Lords was in his hands, and he was determined to restore it to its former glory, no matter the cost. Vol 2, Chapter 1348, The Conspiracy of Darth Tenebris. Darth Messian stood before the lifeless body of Darth Tenebris, his gaze dark and contemplative. He moved towards the Bacta tank, observing Darth Tenebris's body, which was slightly trembling amidst the swirling air bubbles. He spoke slowly, his voice carrying a mix of disappointment and realization. "Since you chose to end your own life, you must have been prepared for me to uncover your plan, right? Master, did you not desire this body? In the end, it seems I underestimated your resolve." Darth Messian had discovered Darth Tenebris's body as a contingency plan. Part of his strategy was to ensure he had a way to conceal Darth Plagueis' demise without revealing his own involvement. Additionally, his quest for deeper knowledge of the dark side drove him to seek out Darth Tenebris. Despite being a disciple of Darth Plagueis for only 3 years and considering himself a quick learner, Messian knew that the complexities of the Force's dark side were too vast to be fully grasped in such a short time. His greatest adversary, Darth Sidious, had been delving into the dark side for over 30 years. Messian had to acknowledge that Sidious's talent might match or even surpass his own, necessitating further guidance from an experienced Sith Lord like Darth Tenebris. However, the relationship between Darth Messian and Darth Tenebris was already strained. Messian had to elevate himself to a position of equal or greater standing to engage in a meaningful exchange with Tenebris. This was a game of manipulation and betrayal among Sith Lords, where Messian used his knowledge of death as leverage, offering resurrection in exchange for teachings in the dark arts. Darth Tenebris was well aware of Darth Plagueis' research into immortality and knew that mere resurrection or body swapping wouldn't suffice to retain one's Force abilities. To truly inherit the Force's talent and be reborn in a new body, one had to master the essence transfer technique. Messian proposed a deal. He would be taught the deeper mysteries of the dark side, enabling him to perform the essence transfer, thus giving Tenebris a chance at resurrection. During this process, Tenebris's body also served as a form of hostage, ensuring his cooperation. Even Tenebris's spirit, bound by the power of death, could not escape Messian's grasp. The plan seemed perfect, and Darth Tenebris agreed to Messian's terms, sharing his lifetime of knowledge in exchange for a chance at resurrection. He held nothing back, imparting true wisdom that allowed Messian to grow significantly over the next decade, avoiding any imbalance of power. Yet Messian had not anticipated Darth Tenebris's willingness to abandon his body so decisively. This was no ordinary body, but one imbued with top-tier dark side power and a mind as capable as a supercomputer. By forsaking his body and Force talent, Tenebris rendered the dark knowledge he had taught Messian essentially useless. Without the possibility of reclaiming his body, teaching Messian seemed pointless. Now, Messian could only conclude that Darth Tenebris had employed the same deceptive tactic he had used on Darth Plagueis. By presenting 99% truth, Tenebris concealed 1% of falsehood. Messian had once given his all to Darth Plagueis, believing in the power of deception and manipulation among the Sith. Darth Messian had inherited 99% of Darth Tenebris's vast knowledge and commitment, yet he was aware that Tenebris had reserved 1% of his capabilities as a secret weapon. This undisclosed power was so crucial to Tenebris that he was willing to sacrifice his formidable physical form for a chance at freedom, to soar beyond his current limitations. Although Darth Masayan didn't presume he could fully control Tenebris, he believed the knowledge he possessed could at least temporarily hinder Tenebris's plans. Trusting in Tenebris's strategy, Masayan accepted a temporary body, seeking opportunities to confront Darth Sidious. At this juncture, both the Fourth Civilization and Darth Masayan were in dire need of additional allies. However, Darth Tenebris seized this unique opportunity to vanish, subsequently orchestrating covert attacks against Darth Sidious, the Galactic Republic, Darth Masayan, the Fourth Civilization, Count Dooku, and the Confederacy of Independent Systems. This initiated a clandestine chess game, with all parties unknowingly manipulated from the shadows. Darth Masayan might have remained oblivious to the orchestrator of these events, if not for the Protoss's intervention. Their unparalleled mastery over psionic energy and the Force allowed them to detect and manipulate these energies directly, revealing the plan that would have otherwise remained concealed. Initially, Masayan hadn't considered the possibility of external interference, assuming the disturbances were the work of Darth Maul, who, according to the storyline, should have been awakening around this time. This assumption inadvertently exposed a blind spot in his understanding. The situation escalated when Shadili and Zakalas engaged in a heated argument, prompting Masayan to unleash his force power impulsively. This act inadvertently alerted Darth Tenebris to the fact that his powers were being manipulated, leading him to disperse his energy to avoid detection. At this moment, Darth Masayan became aware of the existence of the temporary body and realized that Tenebris was the mastermind behind the recent events. Simultaneously, Tenebris discovered that Masayan was now aware of his machinations. This intricate web of knowledge and deception marked the beginning of a complex battle of wits and power, with each player holding cards close to their chest, uncertain of when or how to reveal their hand. The stakes were high, and the outcome uncertain, as alliances shifted and secrets unraveled in this shadowy game of galactic chess. Vol 2, Chapter 1349, Intrigue. Darth Malthael's expression was somber, a visage that would unsettle anyone. He cast a lingering glance at Darth Tenebris's body before extracting a black communicator from a concealed compartment nearby. With a deliberate press of a button, he connected to a specific frequency band. The hyperspace communication, bridging tens of thousands of light years, was swiftly established, and the device began projecting a holographic image. Amidst the distorted signals of hyperspace communication, the figure of a Bith appeared. "It's been a while, Darth Tenebris. I've heard you've been faring well recently, which pleases me," Darth Malthael greeted, his smile bright against the gloom. Darth Tenebris, now inhabiting a temporary Bith body provided by Darth Malthael to house his spirit, responded with a burst of sharp, distinctive laughter. On the contrary, the progress of Dawnstar is truly remarkable, with countless powerful planets under its belt. Defeating Darth Sidious now seems within reach. "It appears you're also aware that Darth Sidious is our true adversary," Darth Malthael remarked, still smiling. "Indeed, Darth Sidious is nearing the pinnacle of power within the Galactic Republic. Soon he'll have everything in the galaxy within his grasp," Darth Tenebris observed. "Oh, I was under the impression you were unaware, Master," Darth Malthael feigned surprise. "I thought perhaps you were planning to grovel at Darth Sidious's feet, kissing his throne." Darth Tenebris chuckled mischievously. "If that were the case, you'd have seen me on Coruscant by now, Darth Malthael. We remain allies, do we not?" "Then why did I find traces of rough protomium in my subordinate's body?" Darth Malthael's tone chilled instantly. "That was merely an accident. I went to great lengths to inform you about the Galactic Republic's impending raid on Semalis, risking my fragile existence," Darth Tenebris explained. Darth Malthael's gaze sharpened. "No, it wasn't just the raid on Semirth you disclosed to the Galactic Republic, but also the seasonal hyperspace channel. You've been in communication with Darth Tenebler Ross, that renowned adventurer and traveler, Roger's gnome. Ah, and let's not forget, a brilliant warship designer." Realization dawned on him dramatically. "Ah, yes! The Semilis planet, the construction site of the Infinity-class super aircraft carrier. Your true target is the Infinity-class." Darth Tenebris's laughter grew sharper. The Infinity-class super aircraft carrier. What an impressive name. You've piqued my interest. Such a battleship promises immense power. I hope it will aid us in our battle against Darth Sidious. Darth Malthael joined in the laughter. Indeed, it all adds up. As an adventurer who has traversed the Milky Way, you're well aware of its uncharted territories. It was unfortunate that one of the secret hyperspace passages led directly to Semula's. As a battleship designer, the raid provided a perfect opportunity to acquire the data for the Infinity-class super aircraft carrier, perhaps even the prototype. With this super battleship, we gain a significant advantage. The air around Darth Tenebris grew tense, his voice warping. Impressive, Darth Malthael. You've considered many angles, but as you know, to challenge Darth Sidious, I need power. Without it, I am powerless. Power, as promised, I intended to return to you, but you chose to decline. Did you really think I would preserve your decaying corpse? Darth Malthael sneered. Will you truly restore my power? Spare me the mockery, Darth Malthael. We both know that's an impossibility. Darth Tenebris spoke with a tone of finality. I must maintain my strength. Only then can we fulfill the terms of our agreement. Given our mutual apprehensions, why not afford each other some breathing room? You've already provided me with the schematics for the Endless-class super aircraft carrier. Isn't that enough? Darth Malthael let out a sigh of relief, his features softening. It appears you haven't forgotten our pact, Master. Perhaps I was overly cautious. You're correct. You need your strength. And as you've said, should you require more freedom, I'm willing to grant it. After all, we are allies. Rest assured, ally, I'll provide you with a satisfactory explanation on planet Semula's. Look, haven't I already obstructed the Republic's Fourth Army's main fleet's retreat? Isn't that a feast for you, especially since Darth Sidious's fleet is the weaker one? Darth Tenebris added. I'm grateful, Master. A whole main fleet is indeed a tempting prize. I'll await your explanation then. Darth Malthael responded with a smile, offering a salute before ending the communication. As the holographic projection faded, Darth Malthael's expression twisted into one of deep malevolence. He exited the secret chamber, returning to his office. Suddenly, he paused and spoke into the void. Head to the planet Mandalore. Halt whatever is occurring there. And should you encounter Abyss, eliminate him. Olasadari. A deep male voice resonated in his mind, speaking in the ancient language of the Protoss, signaling assent. We exist to hunt those who dwell in darkness and evil. A similarly deep female voice echoed in Darth Malthael's mind. He nodded towards an unseen presence in the room, acknowledging the voices. Meanwhile, at the fringes of the Mandalorian galaxy, aboard a dark, floating spaceship, two figures, one towering and the other more diminutive, stood still on the bridge. Alter our course. We won't be heading to Mandalore. Inform Transcendent Vizsla to evacuate as well. There's no sense in courting death, Darth Tenebris commanded in a piercing voice. Darth Malthael, do you comprehend? Shenjon asked icily. If he fails to understand, he'll be a grave disappointment. Ha! Please remember to revisit the origins of this tale at the first domain name of this book. Volume 2, Chapter 1350, The Path. In the northeastern quadrant of the Milky Way, on the outer rim of the Mandalorian planet, stood the Sunset Bar's underground wine cellar. It's definitely here, the hermit declared, squatting at the entrance, his gaze fixed on the chaotic bloodstains on the ground. The last time I was here, I was drawn away by the odd behavior of the locals and didn't get a chance to investigate thoroughly. This is where Vitaly Olav was ambushed. Let's search for any clues, Grand Duke Satine Kryze suggested, scanning the area. The door's locked. We need to find the key. Suddenly, the outer doors swung open, and a bartender entered, carrying a tray. Upon seeing the intruders, he exclaimed in surprise, "Hey, what are you doing here? Outsiders aren't allowed." Satine frowned and approached him. "Have you seen Vita here?" Before she could finish, the hermit swiftly covered her mouth, whispering urgently, "Be careful. These people are under a brainwashing spell. Mentioning certain keywords could alert the Death Guards monitoring them. They use this to track down individuals." Satine Kryze, with a mix of annoyance and indignation, pushed the hermit's hand away and faced the bartender. "Then what do we do?" "You should leave now." The bartender's words were cut short as Jango Fett, with a swift motion, incapacitated him, causing the bartender to collapse. Actions like these will only draw the Death Guard's attention, Satine remarked, clearly displeased. Jango Fett, the leader of the true Mandalorians, and Satine, the Grand Duchess of the new Mandalorians, had been at odds from the start. He'll just go back to his routine when he wakes up without a second thought, Jango retorted coldly. He knelt, searched the bartender, and retrieved a card. Using it, he unlocked the wine cellar door, which slid open silently, releasing a peculiar aroma. "What's this smell?" Satine inquired, wrinkling her nose. "Spices," the hermit explained gravely. "There are at least 7 different kinds, including Eurasia, Rokenna Blue, and Deathrod. They've been accumulating for a long time. This is a secret spice den." Jango Fett, still disguised in his Mandalorian Crusader armor, manipulated his wrist controller, activating the helmet's air filter to analyze the spice's trace components. He then turned to Satine with a cold glare. "This is the state of Mandalore under your governance. Superficial, hypocritical, weak, corrupt. You've not only lost the glory of the Mandalorians, but also their spirit. How are you any different from the parasites on Coruscant?" This accusation struck a nerve with Satine, who responded heatedly. "Parasites? Are you aware that these so-called parasites enjoy the galaxy's finest amenities, food, and environments? The galaxy caters to them. If my people could live like those on Coruscant, I would gladly be called a parasite. I want my people to have better lives, where children have access to food and education, and the elderly receive proper health care and security. I've achieved that." Her voice rose with passion. "And what have you done? Can your Mandalorian pride offer bread to the starving, homeless children begging in despair? Can it protect us from the Death Guard's onslaught? No, you sought help from the Jedi Knights, leading to a massacre. So tell me, where is your so-called Mandalorian glory now?" Jango Fett's anger matched hers. "You seek aid from those who massacred us. The Galactic Republic might give you bread today, but tomorrow their star destroyers could hover over Sundar and obliterate it. Our prestige in the Milky Way. The path to victory is paved with blood. We fought valiantly, and though we were not victorious, the Galactic Republic could never look down upon us. Do you truly believe that the members of your so-called neutral alliance respect your naive aspirations for peace? No, what they truly fear is the legendary valor of the Mandalorians." However, at this moment, the hermit emerged from his search of the wine cellar, brushing dust from his hands. "In the past, I might have sided with your perspective, Satine, but now, I believe both of you are correct in your own ways. The pursuit of bread and dignity is indeed a noble goal for any civilized race, a goal that should be pursued across generations," he said, gently touching the cold, ancient mask on his face. "Wearing this mask allows me to step outside my previous confines and see the world from a broader perspective. The Jedi Knights have made grave errors on Mandalore, errors that cannot be overlooked. The conflict between the Galactic Republic and the Mandalorians isn't the fault of one party alone. Our goal should be to find the most harmonious path through such conflicts, and that's the reason I wear this mask." "What have you discovered?" Satine asked, eager to move past the discussion. The hermit held out his hands, revealing a blood-stained cloth. This was stuffed into a wine bottle. If you weren't paying attention, you might mistake it for a cork left behind by a sneaky drink, he explained, unfolding the cloth to reveal it was actually a sleeve with the word "An" visible in the common galactic language. Satine's expression turned serious. "An, Zan, that's Zane Corporation. You mentioned before that this company was referenced in the last message Vitaly Olaf sent to his brother, an arms dealer. Zane Corporation is known for recycling and refurbishing old spaceship parts on Mandalore. Yet, this alone doesn't provide us with a breakthrough," Jango Fett interjected. "There's more," the hermit continued, pulling a small piece of wood from the sleeve seam and sniffing it. "Diesel bark. This is a top-tier spice, so rare it's almost beyond classification due to its lack of side effects. Currently, it's only produced on the planet Harankar, and typically only the most elite in the Republic's inner circle can afford it." Satine's concern deepened. It's highly unlikely for such dignitaries to visit Mandalore personally, let alone frequent an underground spice shop in a common bar to indulge in such an expensive luxury. "The fabric of this cloth is commonly used by mechanics at the spaceport. It's durable and resistant to wear, not too heavy, yet thick and coarse. On Mandalore, this is the typical attire of ship maintenance workers, Jango Fett explained. Why are you so certain it's from a spaceport? There are many factories here as well, the hermit inquired. The factories have special protective gear, and they wouldn't use such heavy, cheap fabric, Jango Fett replied. Please remember the original domain name of this book. Vol 2, Chapter 1351, The Traitor. Satine Kritz furrowed her brows, expressing her disbelief. So, you're telling me that a spaceport mechanic, someone with a modest income, has been indulging in diesel bark, a luxury spice exclusive to the galaxy's elite, and yet at the end of the day, he's merely a mechanic? It's possible that this mechanic is involved with the extraordinary Vizsla project, perhaps a minor yet crucial component. He might possess knowledge that Vitaly Olaf, who's also been lurking here and dabbling in spices, stumbled upon, the hermit speculated. I've done some digging into Yuri and his brothers, including Vitaly Olaf. It's true, they've been secretly purchasing spices, he added. Jango Fett scoffed. A drug addict, and you're consulting him for peace advice? Satine responded icily. To label Vitaly Olaf merely as a drug addict based on his forced involvement in criminal activities like arms trading is preposterous. Am I wrong, then? Jango Fett challenged. Satine dismissed him with a glance. I have only one thing to say to you. Leave. Since Vitaly has left us a clue, we should investigate the spaceport. Jango Fett interjected. The only information Vitaly intended to leave behind was about Zane Company. He probably didn't anticipate the chance to send out a message. His lead is a dead end. The hermit disagreed. Let's try sending a message from here. Jango Fett turned, incredulous. Are you joking? Under this dense black shield, all communications are. He trailed off, realizing the issue at hand. See, there must be another meaning behind Vitaly's actions, the hermit concluded. Fine, that leaves us with one last question, Jango Fett said, suddenly drawing his blaster pistol and aiming it at Satine Kritz's forehead. What are you doing? Have you finally decided to drop the act and assassinate the current Grand Duke of Mandalore? Satine demanded. It's not assassination. It's merely eliminating a woman who's already been subdued, Jango Fett replied, his thumb flicking off the safety of his blaster. What do you mean? Satine's expression darkened. Don't you find it odd? The entire city has been brainwashed and controlled, yet you remain unaffected. You claim that after the device was activated, you remembered nothing until Transcendence Vizsla awakened you. They attempted to brainwash you more deeply, but you said you resisted their efforts twice with your strong will. Jango Fett explained. That's exactly what happened, Satine insisted, her face grim. Even if I were to believe all that, one question remains. If Kael'thas Vizsla knows you've been rescued by us, why hasn't the wide-area brainwashing device regained control over you after almost a whole day? Jango Fett pressed. I'm wearing this Mandalorian Crusader armor, and the Hermit is a Jedi. Well, a Force user. The brainwashing device naturally doesn't affect us, but he questioned. I don't know why. Perhaps the method Transcendence Vizsla used to awaken me is still in effect, Satine retorted, infuriated. She looked to the Hermit for support, only to find he had vanished. Suddenly, his calm voice came from behind. Sorry, Satine. You just wanted us to lead you to Vitaly Olaf, didn't you? You. Satine turned, her anger palpable, but before she could react further, she was struck on the carotid sinus and lost consciousness instantly. Seizing the moment, the Hermit caught Satine, cradling her in his arms. The controlled individuals, like Satine mentioned, are unaware of their actions. This method of brainwashing seems more akin to suggestion or illusion. Are you planning to take her away like this? You'll be significantly hindered in combat, Jango Fett remarked, twirling his blaster before securely holstering it. The Hermit responded, I can't leave her behind. Whether she's brainwashed or not, she remains the Grand Duke of Mandalore. As long as she's in our custody, she represents our most significant leverage, the Hermit asserted. That's not what you said, Hermit, Jango Fett remarked. It's clear the Grand Duke harbors feelings for you. The Hermit chose to ignore the comment, steering the conversation in a different direction. It appears that what Vitaly Olaf possesses is indeed of great importance. I suspect his presence here isn't merely for indulging in spice, but rather because he's aware that Satine and the others are under control. He likely sought refuge here. The question then is, how did he manage to evade their influence? Perhaps he genuinely succumbed to addiction while seeking asylum, coming here to secretly indulge in spice, only to be captured. Fortunately, he managed to escape, Jango Fett speculated, his tone icy. Let's head to the spaceport. We might find some clues there, the hermit suggested. Aren't you concerned about potential traps? Jango Fett inquired. No. In order to earn our trust, Satine Kryze wouldn't dare to send messages right under our noses. Did you scan her for any tracking devices? The hermit asked. I did. She's not carrying any electronic devices, Jango Fett confirmed. Let's move, the hermit said succinctly, hoisting Satine onto his shoulders and proceeding outside. The Sundari City spaceport, the largest on Mandalore, was bustling. The loading and unloading area, where spacecrafts arrived and departed, was cluttered with cargo boxes stacked high, creating a chaotic landscape. After a thorough survey of the area, the hermit and Jango Fett found a temporary hiding spot for Satine Kryze in a cargo box designated for electronic equipment. Utilizing the Force, the hermit induced a deep sleep in Satine, ensuring she would remain unconscious for several hours. They then stealthily made their way to Zane's office within the port, which was adjacent to a large warehouse. This warehouse was bustling with robots sorting through various spaceship parts. Are you certain this is the place? Jango Fett whispered, eyeing the heavily guarded area from a distance. Not entirely, but Vitaly Olov's clues led us here, the hermit replied. No, we can't just sneak in, Jango Fett stated. The guards are too numerous and the space too confined. Infiltrating this place will be far more challenging than the palace. I might need to create a diversion elsewhere. You do realize I'm without a lightsaber at the moment? The hermit mentioned, looking at him. I believe you can manage, Jango Fett said, clapping him on the shoulder before quietly slipping away. Moments later, a spaceship erupted into the sky in an apparent escape attempt, its turrets firing wildly in all directions. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Website. Vol 2, Chapter 1352, The Real Secret. The sudden commotion at the spaceport immediately drew the attention of the surrounding guards. They were under the impression that the two prime suspects in the kidnapping of Grand Duchess Satine Kryze had made their way to the spaceport, commandeered a spaceship, and were attempting an escape. In response, more than a dozen spaceships launched from various parts of the city, converging to intercept the fugitives. These combat-ready ships, brought in by the Death Guard, were a rare sight in Sundari City, the capital of the new Mandalorian regime, known for its peaceful demeanor. Jango Fett, with remarkable skill, piloted the ship, weaving through the incoming vessels while causing chaos below by strafing ground targets with defensive fire. This spectacle diverted almost everyone's attention. Amidst the ensuing chaos, as the guards of Zane Manufacturing Company were momentarily distracted, a hermit approached the facility unnoticed. A guard, upon noticing the sudden appearance of an additional figure, was too slow to react. The hermit raised his hand, and the guard's mind was instantly clouded. Convinced that the aerial skirmish was an entertaining spectacle, he discarded his weapon and became engrossed in watching the battle unfold above. The hermit made his way to the warehouse, where he found spaceship parts neatly sorted and stacked. Automatic cargo robots busily transferred these parts into cargo boxes for transport to the factory. At first glance, everything seemed ordinary. However, the hermit, extending his senses, detected a faint, familiar scent in the air, the same one he had encountered in the Sunset Bar. Following this elusive scent, which was imperceptible to ordinary people but clear to him through the Force, the hermit discovered its source at one of the large containers. He patiently waited, and soon a guard entered, approached the container, activated a hidden switch, and scanned his ID card. The container door swung open, revealing stairs leading downward. Without hesitation, the hermit swiftly approached the guard, immobilizing him. "Take me in," he commanded in a deep voice. "Okay, I'll take you in right away," the guard replied, his voice dull and lifeless. Maintaining his grip on the guard, the hermit descended the stairs. Unlike the Jedi's Force suggestion, which subtly influences others, Force hypnosis allowed for deeper control, a technique the hermit had previously shunned. Yet, he found himself using it without a second thought, his inner light unwavering as he ventured into the unknown. Below, they discovered a hidden basement, housing a massive main engine, a square behemoth spanning over 100 meters in length and width. Engineers bustled around, monitoring and maintaining the machine. Atop the device, dozens of glass jars housed naked individuals, their bodies entangled in a web of tubes and cables, especially around their heads. In another section, individuals in tattered clothes transported a strange liquid to the machine. As this liquid was injected, the people within the glass jars fell into a deeper state of unconsciousness, their mouths opening in silent screams. Their agony was palpable, yet contained within the soundproof glass. This hidden basement revealed a harrowing secret, one that the hermit was determined to uncover and put an end to. Displayed before the hermit through the glass were scenes of torment. The data lines connected to the heads of the captives emitted bursts of electric light, mirroring their screams. This electric light was collected by the glass jar and transmitted through a thick cable that extended far into the distance. In that moment, the hermit realized the true purpose of the device used by Transcendence Vizsla to brainwash the entire city. The individuals encased in glass jars were all force-sensitive, subjected to a device that forcibly stimulated their brains in a specific manner. This caused them to emit powerful brainwaves, which were then amplified by devices on transmission towers and spread through the city. Notably, all the captives were women with pale skin, adorned with countless religious tattoos. It was clear that these women were not from the planet Mandalorian. After about 30 seconds, the process ceased, and the women in the glass jars became visibly fatigued, barely able to stand due to the tubes and data cables attached to their bodies, clearly in a state of unconsciousness. The mechanical device, appearing to overheat, prompted workers to hurriedly open a hatch and remove the hot, glowing capacitors one by one, transporting them outside on a trolley for cooling. These workers were dressed in the same style of clothing found in the bar earlier. Is this the secret discovered by Vitaly Olov? The hermit pondered in shock. This facility is hardly concealed, likely established after colluding with Zane Manufacturing Company to lease the warehouse, then bribing officials to hastily construct it. Vitaly must have stumbled upon this operation inadvertently, leading to his pursuit. Suddenly, the hermit's hiding spot behind the guards was compromised by surveillance, prompting more than a dozen heavily armed guards to rush towards him, shouting. In a desperate move, the hermit pushed the guard in front of him forward, drew his blaster pistol, and fired continuously at the device. Despite the uncertainty of causing any damage, he made a break for the exit. The alarm had clearly been triggered outside, as a large number of guards poured in, numbering in the hundreds. Having lost his lightsaber during a previous infiltration, the hermit had no choice but to flee. With a wave of force, he knocked down more than a dozen guards blocking his path, navigating through the maze of cargo boxes. Above, the spaceship that Jango Fett had commandeered was shot down, and the sky was filled with dozens of Death Guard fighters donning black Mandalorian Crusader armor, soaring with jetpacks. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Website. Vol 2, Chapter 1353, Turning Point. The hermit, moving with urgency, dashed towards the outskirts of the spaceport. After successfully evading the initial group of pursuers, he redirected his path towards the rendezvous point he had previously agreed upon with Jango Fett. In the vast expanse of the Mandalorian planet, Fett stood as his sole ally. It was clear that the hermit had stirred significant trouble this time, drawing the attention of nearly all the city's guards. The forces against him were formidable, comprising not only hundreds of Death Guard fighters, but also an equal number of Zane Remanufacturing Company's guards, alongside countless Sundari City security police. These security forces, though brainwashed and lacking in self-awareness, were numerous. They worked in tandem with the Death Guard, systematically cordoning off sections of the city in an attempt to corner him. Despite the overwhelming numbers, the direct combatants from the Death Guard and Zane Remanufacturing Company proved insufficient to halt the hermit's advance. The willpower of the brainwashed police was negligible. They posed little challenge as the hermit effortlessly disarmed them using the Force, neutralizing the threat they posed. After a night of relentless evasion, the hermit finally shook off his pursuers. He made his way to the backstage area of a holographic theater projection hall, looking worse for wear. His clothing was tattered, adorned with numerous burns and cuts from near misses with energy beams, and part of his mask was missing. Upon arriving at the backstage, he was met with an unexpected scene. Jango Fett was there, seemingly at ease, with his legs crossed and sipping a drink through a straw inserted into his full-coverage mask. "You're here?" The hermit, both surprised and frustrated, couldn't believe his eyes. He had been battling pursuers all night, only to find Jango Fett in a state of relaxation. "I owe you one. It seems you've really hit a nerve, drawing the city's guards towards the spaceport. My location saw far fewer searchers," Jango Fett explained. "Moreover, those who did come looking for me were misled. I wasn't with the spaceship when it was hit. I triggered an explosion within the ship, using the blast wave to eject myself to safety." He glanced at the hermit, adding, "Don't worry about me. This Mandalorian Crusader armor is of excellent quality. An explosion of that magnitude couldn't harm me." Feeling a surge of irritation, the hermit snatched the drink from Jango Fett's hand, lifted his mask to reveal his true face as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and downed most of the drink in one gulp. "I thought you'd never remove that mask," Jango Fett remarked. "I'm not like you Mandalorians, obsessed with helmets," the hermit retorted. "Besides, it's impossible to eat with this mask on. I have to remove it if I want to eat." "Mandalorians don't wear helmets out of obsession. It's a tradition. You should know that Mandalorian was once the title of the ruler of Mandalore, and the helmet symbolizes the highest authority on the planet. Even though the new Mandalorian Crusaders have popularized the helmet, its sanctity remains unchanged," Jango Fett explained, his tone suggesting even he, a mere mercenary, understood the significance of Mandalorian history. "And what about the Darksaber? Is that another one of your traditions?" the hermit inquired sarcastically. "Watch your words. A true Mandalorian would take offense and challenge you," Jango Fett warned, grabbing another bottle of drink. "The Darksaber is merely a lightsaber with a unique color, stolen from the Jedi Temple by the Death Guard, who then adopted it as their tradition. In reality, they are merely a group of mercenaries with a history spanning just a few decades. P.S. This is why I previously elaborated on the history of the Mandalorians without mentioning the Darksaber. The Darksaber doesn't possess any unique qualities aside from its slightly cooler appearance. The true hallmark of the Mandalorian heritage is the helmet. As for why the Darksaber Lel Adder became the symbol of the Mandalorian leader, that's a story for another time." After Jango Fett shared his insights, he realized the conversation had veered off course. He redirected, saying, "While I was airborne, I noticed that the cargo box concealing Satine Kryze was discovered, and some guards were heading towards it. So your wife was recaptured." "She's not my wife." The hermit's expression turned profoundly sorrowful. "Perhaps it would have been better if she had nothing to do with me." His thoughts drifted to another, Shirataki. This close ally, who was killed by Darth Malthael, resurrected, and then tragically killed again by his own hand, caused a stir in the force of light within him. However, he quickly regained his composure. His gaze hardened with resolve, and he recounted to Jango Fett what he had witnessed in the basement. He concluded, "I'm certain that the women trapped in the glass jars are not from Mandalore. They must be from a specific planet or race, but I can't place them. If we manage to destroy this facility, whatever the Death Guard is scheming will be thwarted." "Should we consider ourselves fortunate or unfortunate?" Jango Fett mused. "You see, I observed quite carefully from above at that time, and noticed many guard forces approaching from the direction of the signal tower. In that direction, a formidable army must have been lying in wait for us. But they likely didn't anticipate that we wouldn't attack this most obvious target, but instead discovered Zane Company's basement. However, now that basement will surely be under heavy guard. We've lost our chance." The hermit acknowledged the grim reality. "We need to find a way to escape and seek reinforcements," Jango Fett suggested. "No, there's still a chance for us," the hermit countered. "Now that the Death Guards are aware we've uncovered the basement, they'll likely assume it's our primary target and concentrate their forces there. This diversion creates an opportunity for us." You're suggesting we seize this moment to locate Vitaly Olov? Given everything we've uncovered, is he truly that significant? Jango Fett inquired skeptically. He holds irreplaceable value, the hermit asserted confidently. And I have a good idea of where he might be. Where? Jango Fett asked eagerly. The transmission tower. His communications are being sent from there. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Website. Vol 2 Chapter 1354, Invisible Reinforcements. The tower? Jango Fett questioned, his tone laced with skepticism. It was already heavily guarded. The hermit nodded, a glint of insight in his eyes. True, the external defenses are formidable. However, the interior is surprisingly vulnerable. Jango Fett furrowed his brow. But how did you deduce he was in the tower? Simple, the hermit replied. I found no trace of him in the basement of the spaceport. Moreover, the only individuals seen wearing Zane Remanufacturing Company uniforms, aside from at the spaceport, were at the launch tower. Given the circumstances, if the Transcendence Vizsla conspiracy were to proceed, the launch tower's brainwashing devices would likely be installed by Zane's workers. Jango Fett shook his head. Your inference seems a stretch. The hermit leaned forward, his voice steady. Consider this. The spaceport's basement was under heavy surveillance, especially after the secret construction work prior to the conspiracy's initiation. For Vitaly Olov to discover anything there and then escape unnoticed is implausible. If he had indeed found something, we would have heard about it by now. Thus, the newly constructed launch tower remains the only viable place for him to uncover and infiltrate Vizsla's scheme. Raising two fingers, the hermit continued. These two conditions, along with a crucial premise, that Vitaly Olov has not yet been captured, lead us to this conclusion. And if he's already been caught, your deductions are worthless? Jango Fett challenged. Exactly, the hermit nodded. Jango Fett stood abruptly, his decision made. Then we have no time to waste. Let's go. The hermit raised an eyebrow. You're willing to act on such speculative reasoning? I don't have a better plan, Jango Fett admitted, checking his blaster pistol, their last remaining weapon. I've come to appreciate your kind, Mandalorians. Jango Fett shook his head. The Mandalorian? I've left that behind. But as you often say, this is the way. Thus you are and always will be a Mandalorian, the hermit said, clapping Jango on the shoulder before leading the way out. Outside the communication tower in Sandari City, the duo surveyed the scene. The tower, rising over 1,000 meters atop a high rise, belonged to a local Mandalorian communications company. Newly established guard posts surrounded the building, with windows sealed to prevent any unauthorized entry or exit. Guards from Zane Remanufacturing Company were stationed at the entrance, their presence a testament to the tower's importance. It appears they've reduced the guard detail here. You were right, the biggest flaw of these guards in Sundarli City is their limited numbers. Jango Fett observed from the shadows of the opposite building, his helmet's electronic eyepiece zoomed in on the tower. I have a bad feeling about this. The force is teeming with danger signals. There's definitely a hidden sentry inside, the hermit intoned gravely. The force is guiding us, so what's our next move? Jango Fett inquired. We have no choice. This is our only point of entry, the hermit sighed. With Satine recaptured and the spaceport locked down, not to mention the impending referendum on Mandalore's alliance with the Confederation of Independent Galaxies, our options are limited to one. And that is? Jango Fett pressed. The hermit stood, stretching. A strategy once employed by one of my apprentices. He gazed towards the tower, determination etched on his face, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. At the launch tower, the command attack was given, and the ensuing explosion sent several of Zane Company's guards flying, creating a breach in their defensive line and revealing the gate to the building beneath the launch tower. The hermit and Jango Fett seized this opportunity, rushing through the gap. Once inside, Jango Fett quickly turned to defend the entrance. Using his body as a shield, he unleashed a barrage of blaster fire, neutralizing several guards attempting to breach the gate. He then stepped aside, allowing the hermit to use the force to move desks, computers, and other objects to barricade the door. The duo advanced into the building, confronting brainwashed guards and employees. Despite their numbers, these adversaries stood no chance. Where is he? Jango Fett demanded, continuing to dispatch their attackers. "I'm not sure, but he's well hidden. We must search," the hermit responded, his patience wearing thin with Django's frustration. "You've been saying that for a while now, you damned fool," Django retorted. The hermit, unfazed, reminded him, "As I've told you, my apprentice, trust in the Force. It will guide us to success." Their progress was momentarily halted by more brainwashed individuals. The hermit, now visibly fatigued and unable to summon another Force wave, resorted to physical combat. Using a bench as a weapon and employing the Force-enhanced combat techniques of the Jedi, he quickly subdued the attackers. Suddenly, a chilling sound echoed through the corridors, the unmistakable noise of a destroyer droid. Jango Fett, a seasoned warrior from the Confederation of Independent Galaxies, recognized the threat immediately. "Destroyer droid, run!" he shouted, puzzled and alarmed at its presence on Mandalore. The hermit, equally shocked, sprinted in the opposite direction. They hadn't gone far when another ominous sound signaled an approaching destroyer droid. A metallic sphere rolled into view, unfolding into its combat form with blaster cannons ready and energy shield activated. Reacting swiftly, the hermit leaped into a ventilation duct, narrowly avoiding the droid's barrage. Jango Fett, realizing escape was futile, made a stand. "I leave it to you. Find him!" he yelled to the hermit. Braving the droid's onslaught with his durable Mandalorian armor, Jango charged, diving within the droid's shield and firing his blaster pistol directly at the blaster cannon's power source. The resulting explosion obliterated the droid, but Jango was thrown against a wall, severely injured and unable to stand. As he struggled to regain his senses, he saw Zane Company guards approaching with another destroyer droid, their rifles aimed at him. Defiant to the end, Jango cursed in Mandalorian, discarded his blaster, and surrendered. Meanwhile, the hermit's escape through the ventilation duct was cut short as it was blasted open. With no choice but to continue upward, he faced increasing resistance from guards and the appearance of a third destroyer droid. The building's windows were sealed, forcing him to ascend as the only viable escape route. He pressed on, navigating the perilous path upward, with the relentless pursuit of Zane Company's forces close behind. Pursued relentlessly, the hermit dashed to the building's summit, only to find several spaceships deploying guards onto the rooftop. In the distance, the rapid approach of black dots signaled the arrival of Death Guard soldiers. With no escape routes available, the hermit was forced to retreat into the launch tower's interior, navigating upwards amidst its complex structure. The tower, cluttered with cables due to the installation of a brainwashing control device, presented a challenging ascent. A thick cable stretched through the stairway to the transmitter amplifier at the top, leaving room for only a single person to pass through the narrow, cable-filled space. The guards, cautious of damaging the delicate setup, opted to climb after him. As Death Guard fighters broke through a window, their advance was hindered by the entanglement of cables, forcing them to retreat and take the stairs. In this labyrinth of wires, the hermit moved with ease, his heightened senses allowing him to navigate the obstacles as if on open ground, quickly outpacing his pursuers. Several hundred meters up, a sudden intuition led the hermit to a concealed maintenance room amidst the cables. Inside, he was met with an unexpected attack, a dagger thrust towards him. Reacting with remarkable speed, he disarmed the assailant, revealing the person to be Vital, Olov, whom they had been searching for extensively. "How could you be here?" he exclaimed in disbelief. Vitali, panicked, demanded the hermit's identity. Attempting to reassure him, the hermit responded, "Don't be afraid, I'm here to help you," but then paused, reflecting on their dire situation with a self-deprecating smile. Inside the maintenance room, cluttered with tools and littered with empty cans and bottles, it was evident that Vitali had been living in squalor. Vitali, looking worn and disheveled, repeated his question. The hermit explained he was sent by Tang Xiao, the governor of Dawnstar Planet, after they intercepted a communication from Vitali to his brother Yuri Olov. They had feared Vitali was assassinated and had come to find him amidst the chaos on Mandalorian. However, Vitali's response was far from grateful. He accused the hermit of leading the city's guards to his hideout. The hermit urged calm, revealing his identity by removing his mask. He was a Jedi Knight, known from the Syria Civil War, now sporting a beard. Vitali, recognizing him as Obi-Wan Kenobi, expressed disbelief at seeing a Jedi working for the Dawn planetary government. Despite his initial outburst, Vitali's anger subsided, and he sat down, resigned to their shared predicament. Together, they began to devise a plan, not yet ready to succumb to despair. With a heavy sigh, Vitali buried his face in his hands and admitted, "I was being pursued too closely." There was no time to relay more detailed information. It's possible that led to a misjudgment, resulting in only a few people being sent for assistance. He paused, reflecting on the gravity of their situation. Indeed, it seems we've underestimated the circumstances. Dawnstar truly cannot afford to dispatch more reinforcements to Mandalore, the hermit interjected. His tone shifted as he posed a question. But why are you here? We're inside the transmission tower, where the signal strength is at its peak. How are you not affected by this brainwashing device? Vitali responded with a hint of pride. I've been chewing diesel bark. It contains a substance that neutralizes the hallucinogenic effects of certain spices. My theory is that this same substance is what renders the brainwashing device ineffective. I see, the hermit nodded, about to inquire further when a sudden commotion outside interrupted him. Shouts and the sound of footsteps echoed through the door. With a grave expression, he drew a dagger from his pocket, gripping it tightly, and declared, "It seems we have no choice but to fight." "I apologize. I had assumed you were near the launch tower, perhaps in a safe house. I never imagined you'd be hiding within a cell tower. It appears we're facing our end here." Outside, the voice of a guard rang out. "There are no signs of him up here. He didn't climb up. Just search the area nearby." Taking a deep breath, the hermit steeled himself for the impending battle. However, just as the tension reached its peak, a mysterious voice resonated within his mind, whispering, "Al-Akardeja Khan." This unexpected intervention left them momentarily stunned, a brief respite in the midst of chaos. Volume 2, Chapter 355, Encounter with the Protoss. A mysterious voice echoed in the minds of the hermit and Vitali Olav, its tone low and slightly soft, seemingly feminine. "Strike from the shadows," it whispered in an unfamiliar language. "What language is this? Who's there?" Vitali Olav exclaimed, his face draining of color as he scanned their surroundings, finding nothing. The hermit, however, let out a light sigh, setting his dagger aside. "It seems we're saved, though it might not be entirely a good thing," he murmured. "You know what this is?" Vitali Olav asked, puzzled. Gazing towards the door, the hermit explained, "The Protoss, or Protoss, are a mysterious race from the unknown starfields brought back by the Dawn Star. Their exploration of these starfields has surpassed all our imaginations. Alongside powerful races like the Psi and Solari, and unique beings like the Knolls and Vathians from the Mater sector, the Protoss are part of a vast, multiracial union that has formed around the Dawn Star. Their collective strength is formidable." "This race is called the Protoss? They communicate through people's minds?" Vitali Olav was astounded. Telepathy is their normal mode of communication. For them, it's as natural as breathing is for us, the hermit clarified. "That's terrifying." Vitali Olav's expression turned grave. The thought of such a powerful and fearsome race appearing in the Milky Way was unsettling. "That's why I said this might not bode well for the Milky Way." "Let's go," the hermit stated, pushing the door open to step outside. Upon exiting, they were greeted by a strong scent of burning, yet an eerie silence pervaded the area. The clamor and chaos of their pursuers had vanished, as if they had never been there. Vitali Olav, already spooked by the strange atmosphere, followed the hermit closely, his body trembling slightly. Not far from the door, they encountered the half-corpse of a death guard, precisely bisected, hanging among countless cables. The clean cut through the armor gap looked as though it had been made by a lightsaber, a testament to the murderer's precision and ruthlessness. As they continued, the ground was littered with similarly bisected corpses, all methodically moved to prevent obstruction. The calmness of the murderer was chilling. Descending the stairs, they found hundreds of corpses, culminating in a scene of carnage atop the building's platform. Guards from the Zane Remanufacturing Company and Death Guard soldiers lay in disarray, all evidently killed in silence. Just minutes before, the hermit had overheard their pursuers discussing their capture, indicating these individuals were killed around that time, unbeknownst to those entering the launch tower. Above, more than a dozen spaceships retreated into the sky, their occupants clearly terrified by the silent slaughter. The hermit stepped forward, bowing slightly to the air. "Thank you for your assistance, noble Protoss warrior." "Who?" Vitali, seeing no one, felt a surge of fear. "Protoss, the firstborn of the gods, followers and guardians of the path of Ul. Our presence is not a disaster for any race, unless they are enemies of life," the hermit intoned. Suddenly, the air in front of them twisted, and a Protoss warrior materialized. "De Ul, Dawu," it spoke, meaning aiding the weak and supporting the frail. This encapsulated the Protoss principle in the Milky Way. To minimally interfere with advanced civilizations, the Protoss standing before him was slender and graceful. A woman adorned in simple yet effective dark gold armor that protected her shoulders, wrists, ankles, and chest. A kyber crystal, glowing with an inner light, was embedded in her wrist armor, complementing the black cloak that billowed around her. Her face was concealed behind a black mask, revealing only her eyes. These eyes, always shimmering with the brilliance of spiritual energy, fixed their gaze on the hermit and Vitali. "Sorry, what you've shown me is only the destruction wrought by that formidable power, nothing more." The hermit expressed, his tone laced with caution towards the Protoss. The survival of a race cannot forsake the act of killing. To deny this is to deny the foundational laws of civilization. However, killing should be a means to an end, not a habit. The Twilight Council has resolved to no longer waver on this stance, the female Protoss replied. "All right, say what you must," the hermit responded. "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Obi-Wan Kenobi, though now you go by the hermit," the Protoss interjected. "My name is Sola of the Saligar tribe. Sent by the governor under the guidance of the Dawnstar, I've come to assess the situation on the Mandalorian planet." "Did Tang Xiao send you? Did he provide any specifics?" the hermit inquired, his brow furrowed. "He's unaware of the specifics unfolding on Mandalore, but his directive was clear. Halt whatever is transpiring here," Sola explained. "His judgment remains astute. Mandalore is indeed enveloped in darkness." The hermit offered a self-deprecating smile. "Though I've contemplated ending his life, ridding the galaxy of a dark and malevolent Sith Lord, it's evident his sharp intuition and judgment have once again proven invaluable. Indeed, the calamity unfolding on Mandalore is something we must thwart. My ally and friend, Aura Khan, is on the ground, and Jango Fett has been rescued. Once we regroup, we can devise a plan of action. More adversaries are on their way," Sola stated. "Wait," the hermit interjected urgently. "You possess a lightsaber. Use it to sever all the cables in this transmission tower. Transcendence Vizsla is exploiting it to brainwash and control the populace across the city. They might even leverage it to initiate a referendum, plunging Mandalore into a devastating war." Sola nodded, her response unspoken as she turned and strode towards the transmission tower. Her figure gradually vanished into the ether, undetectable by even the most advanced instruments. The only presence capable of sensing her was the Force. Please remember the first domain name of this book, website address omitted. Volume 2, Chapter 1356, The Decisive Moment. The hermit glanced back, only to catch a glimpse of a knife's faint light slicing through the air within the launch tower. A large cable was severed in an instant, sending sparks flying in all directions. Then, another swift cut followed, and yet another cable snapped. Despite the Protoss's wrist armor being embedded with an indestructible lightsaber, the sheer number of cables meant it would take some time to cut through them all. "Let's head down," the hermit suggested to Vitali Olav. "Staying here makes us too visible, and according to her, there's a Protoss down there. Only 2 of them against hundreds." Vitali Olav's voice trembled with fear. "How is that possible?" The hermit's voice took on a grave tone. "Indeed, my assessment is that in direct combat, this Protoss wouldn't be stronger than an average Jedi Knight. However, their ability to silently eliminate enemies is unmatched, far beyond what even 10 Jedi Knights could achieve." Descending back into the building, they made their way to the first floor. There, the hermit spotted Jango Fett leaning against a corner in the hall, surrounded by the bodies of guards and a destroyer robot cleaved in two. Upon noticing the hermit, Jango Fett raised his hand in greeting. "Hey, buddy." These people were sliced into pieces right before my eyes, but I couldn't see who did it. The hermit nodded, silently affirming his suspicion that the Protoss's invisibility was linked to the Force. Otherwise, Jango Fett's advanced Mandalorian armor, equipped with various detection technologies, would have spotted them. Jango Fett's casual remark underscored a chilling revelation. Suddenly, the air distorted, and another Protoss appeared. This one, much more robust and wielding a double-bladed lightsaber, was dressed similarly to Sola. He glanced at the hermit and inquired, Will cutting those cables halt what's happening on the planet? Vitaly Olov was startled. How did you know about our actions on the rooftop? Realization dawned on him. Psychic powers? Terrifying. The hermit shook his head. It won't solve the root of the problem. We have two objectives now. Destroy the control device at the spaceport to end this brainwashing scheme and rescue Grand Duke Satine Kryze to prevent Mandalore from holding a referendum. He then briefed the Protoss, Ola Khan, on the situation on Mandalore, confident that Ola Khan could relay the information to Sola A telepathically. Upon learning of the atrocities in Sandari City, Ola Khan's voice resonated with anger in their minds. Unforgivable! They must be stopped! Jango Fett, recovering from his initial shock, pointed at Ola Khan. What species are you? I've never seen your kind before, and how can you speak directly into my mind? Ola Khan responded, My apologies, brave warrior. I remained unseen to ensure safety. We are the Protoss, the firstborn of the gods, allies of the Dawn planet. The hermit couldn't help but interject. So you introduce yourselves as the firstborn of the gods to everyone? It is both our people's pride and humility, Ola Khan explained. As they conversed, Sola A appeared, announcing that the transmission tower's cables were destroyed, which should end the city's brainwashing control. The hermit peered outside, his expression doubtful. It seems we're not done yet. We still need to destroy the core device near the spaceport, and there's the issue with Satine. We don't have the resources to tackle both problems simultaneously. He pondered their next move, aware of the challenges that lay ahead. Reflecting on their next move, one of them declared, We must prioritize rescuing Satine. Ultimately, Vizsla's scheme hinges on conducting a referendum on Mandalore, and while disabling the core device might neutralize the brainwashing control, rendering the referendum ineffective, we cannot ascertain the duration of the brainwashing's effects. Then, our next destination is the palace in Sundari City, Ola Khan interjected. Without delay, let's proceed, Jango Fett announced, rising to his feet. He gathered several blaster rifles from the fallen enemies, inspected their gas tanks and rechargeable batteries, and handed them to the hermit. Turning to Vitaly Olov, he instructed, Follow us, but stay on the outskirts of the battlefield. Avoid engaging in the conflict. Vitaly Olov, having recovered from his initial shock, remarked, You haven't inquired about the origin of the diesel bark in my possession. The hermit, suddenly recalling Vitaly Olov's significance, eagerly asked, Indeed, what's your story? In short, individuals from Coruscant are implicated in this affair. It appears another planet, Dathomir, which I was previously unaware of, is also involved, Vitaly Olov explained. The hermit was taken aback, pondering if Darth Sidious was behind this. However, his mask concealed his reaction, and he remained silent, though Sora glanced back at him. The diesel bark was pilfered by a maintenance worker from Zane Company, Vitaly Olov continued. While supervising the construction of this launch tower, I noticed a worker acting suspiciously. I stealthily followed him and discovered he frequented the underground wine cellar of the Sunset Bar at night to consume spices. He added, I also brought some spices one night, feigned smoking them, and blended in. As expected, the worker boasted about acquiring the diesel bark and, under the influence of the spices, mentioned a significant event with high-profile individuals from Coruscant involved. I then offered him more spices, including some of the finest epiphanies, quickly becoming his confidant. He revealed that he had a box of diesel bark, which also contained a small piece of meat. As we spoke, a large contingent of Zane Company guards suddenly surrounded us. It's baffling how they amassed such a force in Sundari City. Vitaly recounted, his voice tinged with fear. The guards were clearly there to apprehend the worker, so I seized the opportunity to incapacitate him, wrapped a piece of diesel bark in a piece of cloth, stuffed it into a wine bottle, and escaped with the box. Jango Fett, with a grave tone, asked, "So, they're frantically searching for you because of this small piece of meat?" "It's a biochip," the hermit declared solemnly. At that moment, an announcement crackled through the radio outside. "The Sundari City referendum will commence tomorrow morning. I repeat. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Website address omitted. Vol 2, Chapter 1357, 3 Conspiracies." "Trouble is brewing. The referendum is imminent," exclaimed the hermit, rising to his feet in alarm. "If the results reach Coruscant, the Galactic Republic will have the pretext they need to forcibly annex Mandalore. This could pave the way for the Death Guard to seize control of the planet," Jango Fett added, his voice grave. "We still have time to halt the referendum," Ola Khan, the Protoss Dark Templar, interjected. "That's precisely why we're here." However, Vitaly Olov stepped forward, blocking their path. "Hold on. You must understand the full complexity of the situation. The Galactic Republic has already covertly involved itself in this affair. They, too, are intent on forcibly taking the Mandalorian planet. If that's the case, we must act swiftly to prevent the referendum," Jango Fett declared. "You're missing the point," Vitaly Olov countered. "From the moment Transcendence Vizsla brought Grand Duke Satine back, stopping the referendum became impossible. The Galactic Republic merely seeks a justification. The outcome itself is irrelevant to them. Why then would they resort to using a brainwashing device to manipulate the city's populace?" the hermit inquired, sensing a deeper plus. "The situation on Mandalore isn't about a single issue, but 3, Vitaly Olov explained, holding up 3 fingers. "What awaits us at the palace is a trap." The hermit looked puzzled. 3 issues? I thought the goal was simply to push for Mandalore's inclusion in the Confederation of Independent Galaxies, giving the Galactic Republic a reason to invade. "That's only the surface issue," Vitaly Olov clarified, his tone somber. "The second issue involves the brainwashing device. Its use to control the city's inhabitants is merely a trial run, an experiment utilizing individuals from Dathomir as subjects. The referendum, whether it succeeds or fails, is secondary. The true objective is to conduct a large-scale experiment." "And the third issue?" the hermit pressed. "The third issue might be related to this biochip," Vitaly Olov speculated. "While I'm uncertain of its purpose, I'm convinced it holds significant importance, given it was brought here by a high-ranking official from Coruscant. This suggests that a member of the Parliament, or someone of similar stature, has covertly arrived on Mandalore with motives unrelated to the referendum or the experiment." "How can you be so sure?" Jango Fett questioned. "Because the box stolen by the maintenance worker belonged to this high-ranking individual. I discovered this item inside," Vitaly Olov revealed. "It's highly unlikely that a mere maintenance worker could pull off such a feat on his own. He had reprogrammed a service robot to assist him in pilfering items over an extended period. It was sheer luck that the robot was transporting the official's luggage, and he managed to steal it. Such coincidences may seem implausible, yet they occur," he continued. "Afterwards, I concealed myself within the transmission tower, intending to broadcast a message. However, I inadvertently intercepted a brief communication, which led me to uncover the significance of the item brought by this official." The imposing figure was at a loss, his anger palpable. During their communication, he had harshly reprimanded Chaufan Vizsla, who didn't dare utter a single word in response. Normally, Vizsla was known for his domineering nature, so one could only imagine the fury he must have felt. However, it was clear that the man he faced was of significant influence. "By the way," Vitaly Olov mentioned, "I learned from our conversation that chewing diesel bark can prevent mind control. It's fortunate we discovered this, especially since they activated their device a few hours later." He shook his head in dismay. "So, since we can't stop the planet Mandalorian from falling under the Galactic Republic's control, our only option is to destroy the core device and thwart their experiment." The hermit pondered, stroking his chin thoughtfully. "That seems to be the case," Vitaly Olov confirmed. "With the biochip in our possession, destroying the core device will at least sabotage the 3 objectives that Extraordinary Vizsla aimed to achieve. And frankly, I suspect there are other forces behind Vizsla pulling the strings. Rushing into a trap is certainly not wise. We support this plan," Ola Khan's voice echoed in their minds. The hermit sighed deeply, gazing out the window. The events unfolding on Mandalorian are likely just the tip of the iceberg in a larger conspiracy. Vitaly Olov, your transformation since the civil war on planet Rhea is remarkable. You've become much more powerful, but He paused, shaking his head. I'm still trying to make sense of it all. Let's focus on resolving the crisis on Mandalorian first, Vitaly Olov suggested calmly, unfazed by the praise. You go ahead. I'll take it upon myself to save Grand Duke Satine. The hermit declared. Knowing it's a trap, you still choose to proceed? Jango Fett questioned. The hermit removed his mask, placing it in Vitaly Olov's hands. This is something I must do, not as the Hermit of Dawnstar, but as Obi-Wan Kenobi, a man. You once said you donned the mask to seek answers. Have you found them, or have you given up? Jango Fett inquired. If I can't save her, if I can't be with her, then the answers will forever elude me, Obi-Wan Kenobi replied. When Siritaki fell by my hand, I should have realized. He offered a slight smile. Tell Tang Xiao, when I wear this mask again, it will be time for me to confront him. With those words, he walked away with determined strides. Please remember the original domain name of this book. Vol 2, Chapter 1358, Upheaval in Mandalore. In the bustling spaceport of Sundari City, a hovercar sped towards its destination with reckless abandon. Without any attempt to decelerate, it crashed directly into the warehouse of Zane Remanufacturing Company, resulting in a massive explosion. The impact was so severe that it was evident the vehicle was transporting something far more dangerous than ordinary cargo. The explosion tore through the warehouse doors, prompting the Zane Company guards to rush towards the scene. As they approached the smoldering wreckage, they found nothing of what they expected. However, in the blink of an eye, a shadowy figure leaped from atop a pile of cargo boxes. Clad in black Mandalorian Crusader armor, the figure aimed a blaster rifle at the guards, unleashing a series of precise shots. Several guards fell instantly, while the survivors scrambled for cover, returning fire futilely against the impervious armor. Amidst the chaos, Jango Fett's unmatched marksmanship claimed more victims. The guards, realizing the gravity of the situation, called for reinforcements. Soon, a swarm of law enforcement officers surrounded the area. Unbeknownst to them, a secret entrance in the warehouse was breached by a series of swift lightsaber slashes, setting off alarms throughout the facility. Quick, the core device is under attack. Call for reinforcements, someone yelled into their communicator. But when they arrived at the scene, they found nothing but the remnants of the gate, cleaved open by a lightsaber. Silently, the lightsaber struck again, its blade severing a guard in the corner, his body eerily suspended by unseen forces before gently being laid to rest on the ground. One by one, guards fell to this invisible assailant, their demise unnoticed until the scent of burnt flesh filled the air. There's someone here, the guards shouted in panic, but their cries were cut short as the invisible assailant's lightsaber continued its deadly dance. It's an invisible man, a guard captain cried out, only to be bisected by the unseen blade. In the ensuing chaos, the remaining guards fired blindly into the air, inadvertently felling their comrades. From above, Death Guard soldiers descended, their jetpacks roaring as they landed. Turn on the scanner! Find this invisible man, they commanded, scanning the area with various imaging modes, but to no avail. Suddenly, sensing an imminent threat, a Death Guard soldier fired into the void, only to catch a glimpse of an energy ripple before a silent, invisible lightsaber sliced through his throat. A mysterious phrase echoed in their minds. Navazil. We destroy. Meanwhile, at the royal palace of Sundari City, a significant announcement was underway. Therefore, on behalf of the current government of Mandalore, I wish to return the power of choice to the people. The people make the choice. They must not forget our history, nor should they be allowed to forget. Today, here in Sundari City, I will act on behalf of our people's voice, declared Satine Kryze, the Grand Duchess of the new Mandalorian regime. Her expression was somber, yet her voice resonated with determination. Flanked by 4 Death Guard soldiers, her stance was meant to inspire passion and unity among her people. However, the atmosphere was tense, reflecting the upheaval that had just begun to unfold across Mandalore. The atmosphere was heavy and emotionless as the speaker droned on, his words feeling as uninspiring as chewing wax. In the square, Tens of thousands of people, their expressions blank, lined up in an orderly fashion, moving forward to cast their votes in the referendum. Suddenly, a man stumbled and fell. As he rose, confusion clouded his eyes. Where am I? What am I doing here? A referendum? Why am I participating? The memories of prior suggestions hit him like fragments of a dream, blurring the lines between reality and illusion, leaving him utterly bewildered. As if a spell had been broken, more and more citizens began to shake off the effects of the brainwashing. They realized something was amiss and started to clamor loudly. Some hurried home, while others, fueled by a newfound clarity, made their way to the balcony where Grand Duke Satine Kritz was seated, demanding answers about her actions in Sundari City. Meanwhile, in the capital of the Galactic Republic, Coruscant, within the Galactic Parliament building, Speaker Schiff Palpatine watched the live broadcast with a grave expression. As the voting commenced, he made a decisive move to cut the broadcast, preventing the ensuing chaos from being shown. Gentlemen, during this war, at our most desperate hour, the planet Mandalore chose betrayal, Palpatine declared, his voice laden with gravity. They seem to have forgotten who aided them in rebuilding their homes, who provided them with substantial interest-free loans, and who is responsible for their current prosperity. He paused, then his voice grew louder. But we are the Galactic Republic. We do not fear betrayal. We will confront this challenge head-on. The treacherous intentions of the Mandalorian planet will not undermine the unity of our true Republic citizens. Now, we, the Galactic Republic, will stand united and deliver our most resolute response. The congressman responded with a roar of approval. Amid the uproar, Senator Padme Amidala stood, attempting to bring order. We need to calm down. We cannot allow the tragedy of the Mandalorian War, 4,000 years ago, to repeat itself. This referendum is clearly the result of a manipulated conspiracy. But her pleas were drowned out by the chaos, with only Palpatine's persuasive voice continuing to echo. I decree that the war against the planet Mandalore will be entrusted to the Second Galaxy Army. Yes, this will require the Second Galaxy Army to leave the inner defense perimeter, but this is the last force we can deploy in these dire times. As Speaker of the Republic, I am prepared to stand and confront our enemies directly, to fight against the Mandalorian traitors with unwavering resolve. Occupy the planet Mandalore, the congressman chanted in unison. Back in Sundari City, within the royal palace, a shadowy figure emerged behind the balcony. Suddenly, a chain, manipulated by an unseen force, whipped out like a serpent, swiftly entangling the 4 Death Guard soldiers stationed behind Grand Duke Satine. The guards reacted instantly, but their lack of coordination made them easy targets, and they were quickly incapacitated by the chain's swift strikes. Seizing this brief moment of disarray, Obi-Wan Kenobi sprang into action, grabbing Satine Kritz and making a swift retreat. Vol 2, Chapter 1359, Mandalorian Political Turmoil. As the referendum on Mandalore commenced, Earl Dooku initiated a communication with Tang Xiao. The gravity of the situation was evident in Dooku's solemn expression. A veteran of political maneuvering, Dooku hadn't anticipated the depth of the trap that had been set. Tang Xiao shared his grim demeanor. Despite their lack of immediate knowledge about the current events on Mandalore, both men quickly grasped the vast conspiracy unfolding due to the drastic changes on the planet. On the surface, Mandalore's referendum appeared to be a straightforward proposal to join the Confederation of Independent Galaxies. However, the Confederacy had not been informed in advance, and Mandalore's location made it virtually inaccessible to the Confederation's fleets. Moreover, the feasibility of dispatching a fleet, even if possible, was questionable. The galaxy was a complex web of countless races and planets, each observing the conflict from their vantage points. Allegiances were fluid, driven by shifting interests and conditions, necessitating a delicate balance of warfare, political spectacle, and discreditation of the opposition. The referendum, while ostensibly about joining the Confederation, was in reality a move with no tangible benefits for the Confederacy, bringing only negative repercussions. Mandalore, as the leader of the Neutral Alliance, commanded the loyalty of over 1,500 galaxies. This neutral bloc represented a significant force that even the Galactic Republic approached with caution, aware that any provocation could trigger a catastrophic political crisis. Under the Galactic Republic, the principles of parliamentary democracy were upheld, at least superficially. While the wealthiest and most powerful planets wielded the greatest influence, they still engaged in a democratic facade with less affluent worlds, so long as their core interests remained unthreatened. Thus, any disruption by the neutral galaxies in the Republic's parliament could potentially unseat Speaker Schiff Palpatine. The Galactic Republic's strategy towards neutral planets was one of covert manipulation, affecting their trade and transportation to ensure compliance without overt coercion. The sudden announcement by Mandalore of a referendum to secede from the Republic and join the Confederacy was bound to escalate tensions, leading inevitably to war. Whether the Confederacy declared war post-referendum or the Republic launched a preemptive strike, the Confederacy would be implicated in underhanded tactics to lure Mandalore into the conflict. This development threatened to severely damage the political image of the Confederation of Independent Galaxies. Neutral or undecided galaxies might swiftly align with the Galactic Republic, perceiving the Confederacy's actions as aggressive and destabilizing. The referendum on Mandalore, far from being a simple political maneuver, had become a flashpoint with far-reaching implications for the entire galaxy. If the attempt is successful, they will declare their allegiance to the Confederacy of Independent Galaxies. This raises a question for the Confederation of Independent Systems. As people rush to join them, shouldn't they make a statement? The Galactic Republic's fleet is likely en route, but what about the Confederate reinforcements? If they fail to send aid, what message does that send? Joining them only to be left to fend for oneself is nonsensical. However, the dilemma is in the logistics of sending reinforcements, which seems impossible. This situation could be likened to someone who entices others with promises, only to reveal their incapacity to fulfill them when it matters most. Count Dooku, in his conversation with Tang Xiao, primarily sought to understand the events on Mandalore. Dooku suspected that if there were significant developments in the galaxy, Tang Xiao would be involved, given his history of impactful actions. However, this time, Tang Xiao was genuinely unaware of the happenings on Mandalore. Despite his ignorance, Tang Xiao was certain Ain Darth Tenebris was behind it, though he chose not to disclose this to Count Dooku. Instead, he vaguely mentioned a rising darkness behind Mandalore's situation, suggesting that this could be just the beginning of a larger threat. Tang Xiao informed Count Dooku that he had dispatched Jango Fett and several others to Mandalore to halt whatever was transpiring, yet there had been no updates from them. Dooku ended the communication with suspicion and departed. Subsequently, the Confederation of Independent Galaxies released a statement clarifying their unawareness and disapproval of the referendum on Mandalore. They emphasized their respect for Mandalore's neutrality and the alliance of neutral galaxies, asserting their commitment to not violate the neutrality laws. Count Dooku also made a public address, urging Mandalore's Grand Duke, Satine Kryze, to maintain rationality and neutrality, positioning the alliance of neutral galaxies as a beacon of peace in a war-torn galaxy. He eloquently praised the alliance of neutrals, then shifted blame to the Galactic Republic, accusing them of orchestrating the referendum as a pretext for invading Mandalore. Dooku's statement, which pointedly accused the Republic of being the instigator, showcased his political acumen and strategic manipulation. Dooku's discussion with Tang Xiao was not to devise countermeasures, but to grasp the situation on Mandalore. Despite Tang Xiao's involvement in galactic affairs, Dooku's political savvy far exceeded his. Meanwhile, the Galactic Republic would not halt their advance, with the main fleet of the Second Galaxy Army already en route, signaling their unwavering commitment to their cause. Vol 2, Chapter 1360, The Unknown Conspiracy Boom. The spaceport of Sundari City, the capital of the planet Mandalore, was rocked by a violent explosion. The warehouse leased by the Zane Remanufacturing Company was obliterated in the blast, destroying the core device that used more than 10 Dassault Merwomen as a battery. The brainwashing control that had enveloped Sundari City for nearly a week finally dissipated. The city descended into chaos. Millions of residents awoke from their brainwashed state, their minds muddled, struggling to grasp what had transpired. It felt like emerging from a dream. However, the reality they faced was far from dreamlike. To their astonishment, they discovered they had inexplicably participated in a referendum to join the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Confusion and disbelief spread. Mandalore was known for its peaceful neutrality, and Sundari was a city where firearms were unheard of. When had this referendum taken place? Why was there even a referendum? The notion of being thrust into the maelstrom of war was unthinkable. Questions arose about the motives of the current government under Grand Duchess Satine Kryze. Riots erupted across the city, and opposition against Grand Duchess Satine Kryze intensified. Yet, amidst the turmoil, Satine Kryze was nowhere to be found, as if she had vanished into thin air. With the Grand Duchess's disappearance, the government of Mandalore was effectively paralyzed. In this moment of crisis, Prime Minister Almec stepped forward, announcing the formation of an interim government to regain control of the now anarchic Sundari city. Concordia's governor, Pre Vizsla, also voiced his support for Almec's interim government from aboard a spaceship, asserting that under Almec's leadership, Mandalore would find its way out of the chaos. Meanwhile, the main fleet of the Galactic Republic's Second Galaxy Army, led by Master Windu, had arrived at Coruscant, a strategic hyperspace channel hub poised for further action. The shadow of war loomed over Mandalore. Yet, Prime Minister Almec's response to the situation was peculiar. He did not declare the chaotic referendum results invalid. Instead, he focused on restoring order and normalcy to the city, despite the imminent threat of the Galactic Republic's fleet nearby. Almec publicly stated that the referendum decision was made by Grand Duchess Satine Kryze, and in her absence and without evidence of her demise, he lacked the authority to overturn her decisions. He urged the Galactic Republic to remain patient, either until Satine Kryze was found or until a new leader could be elected, according to Mandalore's constitution, should she not be found within a month. "This is simply preposterous," exclaimed Speaker of the Republic Sheev Palpatine in his office within the Coruscant Galactic Parliament building. His deputy speaker, Masameda, stood by his side. Palpatine's sneer was evident as he mocked Almec's attempts to buy time. Almec is nothing but a power-hungry opportunist, seeking to ascend to Mandalore's highest position amidst the chaos, yet lacking the resolve to truly alter the status quo, Masameda added. Palpatine's gaze darkened. Janus Grijotis' plan has indeed set the wheels in motion, and Mandalore has been thrust into an unexpected referendum. It seems our strategy is unfolding as planned. Palpatine, with a hint of satisfaction in his tone, remarked, "I once thought this man was merely ambitious yet inept, loyal but lacking in capability. Now it appears he's quite cunning. This was your decision, Mr. Speaker, to appoint him as your advisor. Under your guidance and influence, it's only natural that he has matured," Masameda complimented, seizing the moment to flatter. "However, he hasn't returned from Mandalore yet. Could something have happened?" Palpatine dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. "We will continue with our plan. Let the Second Galaxy Army's fleet exert some pressure on Mandalore, but avoid entering the Mandalore galaxy directly. The current position, N near Coruscant planet, is perfect, close enough yet not too close." "Are you concerned about Count Dooku's reaction?" Masameda inquired. Palpatine chuckled dismissively. "Ah, the traitor Dooku? He's already played his part in this matter, yet he can only stand by and watch everything unfold. With the scandal first breaking on Mandalore, the disintegration of the Neutral Galaxy Alliance is only a matter of time. Janus has made a significant contribution. If he returns alive, he deserves to govern a territory of his own. The Separatists have no say this time. They're destined to be blamed for the scandal, allowing us to rightfully claim the 1,500 galaxies from the Neutral Alliance," Masameda added. "But are we really considering an armed occupation of Mandalore?" "That would be the most foolish decision," Palpatine exclaimed, showing a trace of impatience with his deputy's naivety. "Given the current situation on Mandalore, direct involvement would only validate Count Dooku's accusations against us. What we need is a political evolution. We should reach out to several influential Mandalorian leaders and see what they propose. After all, Mandalore should be governed by Mandalorians." As he spoke, Palpatine stood and gazed out the window at the stunning view, though his expression soon turned contemplative. Masameda, noticing the shift in mood, approached cautiously. "Sir, is something troubling you?" Palpatine continued to look outside, pondering. After a moment, he voiced his concern. "Don't you think everything is proceeding too smoothly? Does Janus Griatus truly have the capability to stir the political situation on Mandalore to this extent?" "You mean?" Masameda trailed off, seeking clarification. "Go and find out," Palpatine instructed firmly. "Send a few Jedi Knights as special envoys to Mandalore, along with additional intelligence personnel. Use all available means to uncover the true reason behind such a drastic change on the planet." "Yes, I'll take care of it immediately," Masameda responded, bowing deeply before taking his leave to execute the orders. Vol 2, Chapter 1361, Dathomir. "My lord, upon your summons, I have departed from the city of Sandari," Caofan Vizsla stated, kneeling on one knee before the two enigmatic figures shrouded in shadows, one notably taller than the other. Through the portholes behind them, a mysterious planet was visible, its surface etched with countless peculiar lines that emitted an eerie red glow, weaving into an arcane pattern. These figures were unmistakably the Sith Lord of the previous generation, Darth Tenebrous, and his current apprentice, Shenjan. "Have you secured what I sought?" Darth Tenebrous inquired, his voice laced with a chilling coldness. "The test data has been successfully acquired, and the referendum on the Mandalorian planet is proceeding as planned. As you orchestrated, the Galactic Republic could not resist such a tantalizing opportunity and has dispatched troops. However, they have halted the fleet at the planet Corxin, likely in a final attempt to save face," Caofan Vizsla reported. "But Grand Duke Satine Kryze was rescued by the Jedi Knights at the last moment, and the core device was also seized by others and destroyed. Had I been present, perhaps. When a Sith Lord targets you, prepare for the worst. His actions will be far more ruthless and decisive than you can imagine," Darth Tenebrous interjected sharply. "Almec survives solely because he is a fool incapable of any significant action. Yet, his incompetence serves us by diverting attention. As long as he focuses on restoring order without overstepping, he will live." "Yes, my lord," Caofan Vizsla murmured, bowing his head further. "The Mandalorian planet will soon fall to the Galactic Republic, and they shall face the fury of Darth Masane," Darth Tenebrous declared, turning to gaze out at the enigmatic planet through the porthole. Caofan Vizsla, taken aback, looked up and queried, "My lord, are we to simply relinquish the Mandalorian planet? You've previously reported the presence of undetectable assassins in Sundari City, invisible to all forms of detection equipment. This invisibility is undoubtedly a manipulation of the Force. Are you confident in your ability to evade such an assassin?" Darth Tenebrous posed calmly. Caofan Vizsla's complexion turned a shade paler, and he remained silent, his head bowed. "The Galactic Republic has the Jedi Order at its disposal," Darth Tenebrous continued. "Let the Prime Minister endure this ordeal. He sees it as his golden opportunity to claim the title of Grand Duke of Mandalore, and he will not shy away from it." Shenjan added, "The reign of Grand Duke Satine is over. Now, we shall observe the clash between the Galactic Republic's military invasion and the pacifist ideals of the new Mandalorians. We need not intervene. You are to return to the Concordia satellite, consolidate your power, and when the moment is right, claim dominion over the planet Mandalore, in the name of the Death Watch. But our esteemed tradition has been forsaken by those Mandalorians under Satine Kryze. The Death Watch will only garner support from a minority still yearning for battle," Caofan Vizsla lamented. "That may not necessarily be the case," Shenjan assured. "My lord, I have plans in place." "Yes, my lord," Caofan Vizsla responded, his tone respectful. "Stand down," Shenjan commanded with a wave of his hand. Without hesitation, Caofan Vizsla bowed and retreated. After a moment of silence, Shenjan spoke. "The Separatists are already stretched thin between Mandalore and Simurth. Darth Masane will undoubtedly focus his efforts in these directions. We have obtained a portion of the design schematics for the Infinity-class super aircraft carrier and sown the seeds on Mandalore. Unfortunately, the psychic amplifier, Darth Tenebrous, expressed no regrets about the malfunctioning clone soldier biochip. The incident with the clone soldier who went berserk on Grinvenda attacking the Jedi Knights, was unfortunate. However, the loss of the biochip is inconsequential. The Doctrine's use of genetic weapons against clone soldiers on Semilas rendered the chip ineffective anyway. This situation has confirmed that several of my allies in Coruscant remain active. As long as we have CT-5555, we still hold the key to our plans. Shenzhen raised concerns about their resources. The Infinity-class super aircraft carrier's data suggests that its construction is beyond the capabilities of the Zane Remanufacturing Company alone. We need to secure more factories. Darth Tenebris acknowledged the point but remained focused on the potential of Tiber Zane, the director's son. Tiber Zane is a promising talent who will become an invaluable asset. As for the factories, we'll address that in time. I need to study the Infinity-class designs further before we can proceed with our own super battleship. Shenzhen then mentioned his plans to return to the planet Mandalorian with Transcendent Vizsla to ensure his safety from an unseen assassin. I'll advise Vizsla, helping him secure his rule over Mandalorian when the time comes. Darth Tenebris approved. With your guidance, Vizsla will indeed secure his leadership. We have enough on our plate for now. Sometimes pushing too hard for more can lead to total loss. Shenzhen bowed respectfully, agreeing to follow Darth Tenebris's instructions. As he left, Tenebris's attention returned to the mysterious planet and its ancient patterns visible from space, hinting at their immense scale on the ground. I'll continue to manipulate the situation with the old woman. Only by stabilizing her position can we further explore this star temple built by the Ka people thousands of years ago. She aims to eliminate her rivals and drag the Sisterhood of the Night into darkness, but she'll need my assistance to succeed. Meanwhile, in the northeast of the Milky Way, not far from Mandalorian, lies the enigmatic planet Dathomir. With its warm climate, rich vegetation, and diverse ecology, Dathomir boasts an environment more hospitable than Coruscant. Its thick atmosphere leads to frequent cloudy weather, and the lower gravity allows for the flourishing of towering trees and massive beasts. Dathomir, once the cradle of the Ka civilization, witnessed the rise and fall of a once great society. However, the reasons behind their decline remain a mystery, leaving behind only the ruins of their star temple and the Gate of Infinity. Over time, the Pasha Empire and the Old Sith Empire took turns ruling Dathomir, even establishing a Sith Academy. Yet, the planet was eventually abandoned during the wars and faded into obscurity, its secrets and power lying dormant. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, the planet Dathomir remained largely untamed and inhospitable. Its use was limited, primarily serving as a desolate exile for the galaxy's most notorious criminals. This changed dramatically 600 years ago when Aria, a female Jedi Knight who succumbed to the dark side, was banished to Dathomir. Her arrival marked a turning point for the planet's sparse population, which numbered only in the tens of thousands, many of whom were exiles themselves. Aria, wielding her formidable powers, quickly subdued any opposition and established her own tribe, bringing the entire planet under her dominion. Her rule was absolute, and under her leadership, Dathomir adopted a unique matrilineal clan structure. Aria was a staunch feminist. She relegated all males on the planet to roles of servitude, transportation, and reproduction. Recognizing the latent force sensitivity among the planet's inhabitants, Aria began to instruct them in the ways of the Force, particularly the dark side, due to Dathomir's rich Force heritage. This training laid the groundwork for a mysterious organization that would emerge later. However, Aria's perspective shifted dramatically after she became a mother to several daughters. The transformative power of motherhood led her back to the light side of the Force. She devoted herself to teaching her daughters the ways of the light and authored the Book of the Law to guide their conduct. Initially mirroring the Jedi Order's creed, this document underwent numerous revisions, eventually diverging significantly from its origins. Following Aria's death, her daughters dispersed, forming various clans and tribes that expanded their territories. They continued to explore the Force, developing a unique approach that blended traditional Force techniques with rituals and spells, which they believed to be magic. While many of these practices were largely symbolic, aiding concentration more than harnessing power, a few spells did tap into profound forces that even Jedi Knights could not access. This blend of mysticism and force sensitivity led to the Dathomir inhabitants being known as Dathomir witches. Over time, some witches succumbed to the dark side. These individuals were exiled by their clans, but the absence of Aria's guidance left a void in the witches' understanding of the Force. This led to a continuous stream of individuals exploring the dark side, isolating themselves to delve deeper into their dark magic and growing increasingly powerful. The legacy of Aria and her teachings thus cast a long shadow over Dathomir, shaping its culture and its people's understanding of the Force in ways that continued to evolve long after her passing. The influence of the Dathomir tribe grew steadily, reaching a point that could no longer be overlooked. In their relentless pursuit of resources, wealth, and male slaves, an unexpected event occurred. A spaceship landed on the planet Dathomir. Aboard were a group of interstellar pirates and their captives, the Zabrak, whom they intended to sell. The Dark Witches of Dathomir, wielding the power of force magic, easily overpowered these pirates and claimed the Zabrak as their slaves. In time, the witches discovered that the Zabrak's genetic makeup was highly compatible with their own. Not only was their tolerance remarkable, but there was also no reproductive barrier between them and humans. Seizing this opportunity, the Dark Witches began to interbreed with the Zabrak on a grand scale. This union produced offspring of greater power, and the Zabrak were kept in captivity, serving as both slaves and breeding partners for the Dark Witches. The children born from these unions were known as Dasomians. As the Dark Witches' power grew, they were eventually united under the leadership of a formidable figure known as Gutsirian. Under Gutsirian's guidance, they began to identify themselves as the Night Sisters, forming a tribe of considerable strength. Gutsirian also authored the Book of Shadows, a tome filled with numerous dark spells and rituals of the dark side. This transformation marked the beginning of a new era for the Night Sisters, as they wielded their dark powers with unprecedented authority on Dathomir. Vol 2, Chapter 1362, Night Sisters. The Night Sisters, under the control of the formidable matron, Mother Talzin, have become a force to be reckoned with. Mother Talzin, the tribe's matriarch and most potent witch, has not only birthed many daughters, but also possesses spells of unfathomable power. Following Gutsirian's demise, she unified the fragmented Night Sisters, imposing stricter laws and solidifying her rule. Her governance, bordering on the tyrannical, has transformed the Night Sisters into ruthless assassins. Mother Talzin has a unique approach to breeding within her tribe. She designates the Zabrak males she raises as Night Brothers, and mandates that the Night Sisters only procreate with them. However, she strictly forbids any other form of communication between the two groups, to the extent that they remain anonymous to each other, even during mating. Offspring are segregated by gender. Daughters join the Night Sisters, while sons are relegated to the Night Brothers. The Night Brothers live under a different set of rules. They undergo rigorous training to ensure their physical prowess, not only to be capable of laborious tasks, but also to be in prime condition for reproduction. Competition among them is fierce, as mating with a Night Sister elevates their status, sparing them from menial work and granting access to superior nourishment. Their battles for this privilege are savage, relying solely on brute strength and instinct, often resulting in death. To enhance the Night Brothers' gene pool, Mother Talzin collaborates with infamous slave traders, such as Malaji Sintel of Ziglia, abducting Zabrak individuals to Thormir. Over a decade before the war's outbreak, she even had dealings with Darth Sidious, who took a Night Brother, later known as Darth Maul, as his apprentice. With the onset of the war in 22 BBY, Mother Talzin and Count Dooku formed a tentative alliance. She authored The Power of the Wild to elucidate her influence over the dark side of the Force and the pivotal role the Night Sisters would play in the conflict. The Night Sisters elite were dispatched to the Confederacy of Independent Systems, becoming a formidable force of assassins under Count Dooku. They were instrumental in eliminating politicians sympathetic to the Galactic Republic, though their impact on the war's overall direction was limited. Despite their contributions, Mother Talzin and the Night Sisters were merely tools in Count Dooku's eyes. Yet, for Mother Talzin, her power was immense, controlling vast territories and rivaling the Galactic Republic. To maintain her authority, she declared neutrality instead of joining the Confederacy outright, conducting her assassinations covertly. When Count Dooku found himself in need of more allies, he turned to the Night Sisters and Mother Talzin. His dark acolyte, the once renowned Jedi Master Sora Bulk, journeyed to Dathomir to seek the enigmatic witch. Sora Bulk, a Weequay Dark Master, though aged and with skin as coarse as tree bark, moved with a master's grace and restraint. "Ah, Master Bulk," Mother Talzin greeted, her voice echoing the dark power that surrounded her. "I was not expecting a visit from Count Dooku's emissary. To what do we owe this honor?" Mother Talzin, with a voice as slow and deliberate as the creeping shadows that surrounded them, addressed the figure standing opposite her. The man, also in his 60s, was draped in a red robe, his pale, wrinkled skin hanging loosely on his frame. His eyes, dark and predatory, betrayed his heritage as a hybrid of the Night Sisters and the Zabrak, known as the Dasomians. "Count Dooku seeks more power, which has led you to our doorstep, hoping we can supply formidable warriors," Sora Bulk stated, his voice carrying an air of authority despite his aged appearance. The exchange felt like a meeting between two ancient beings, far removed from the concerns of ordinary mortals. "More power, you say?" "Yes, the Night Sisters are always prepared to offer assistance. However, what is Count Dooku willing to offer in return?" "Mother Tal," Zin inquired, her tone suggesting that the price for such aid would not be insignificant. "You know well that we seek not ordinary soldiers," Sora Bulk replied, gesturing towards the shadows where the Dark Night Sisters lurked unseen. With a wave of her hand, Mother Talzin signaled the hidden assassins, who then retreated into the darkness, their presence acknowledged but no longer required. Descending from the altar, Mother Talzin led Sora Bulk through the temple, eventually stepping outside into the heart of a settlement nestled within the jungle. The houses, built atop trees and adorned with whatever decorations could be mustered, spoke of a life that was both simple and austere. The contrast with the wider galaxy could not have been starker. Dathomir was a world apart, its inhabitants leading a life reminiscent of a primitive tribe. "Our population does not exceed 100,000. Dathomir is a secluded world, and my daughters have honed their skills through rigorous training, providing for our tribe's needs," Mother Talzin explained, as they approached a training ground. The scene before them was one of intense combat, with the Dark Night Sisters engaged in battles that bordered on life and death. The sparring was fierce, with real weapons drawn and blood spilled freely. It was clear that on this training ground, trust was a luxury, and survival the only goal. "These warriors are our finest, ready to serve Count Dooku, assuming the price is right," Mother Talzin stated. "They are no match for the Jedi Knights," Sora Bulk countered coldly. "I sense the dark side within them, but it is insufficient." "You speak of those born with a natural affinity for the Force," Mother Talzin acknowledged. "Indeed, among my Night brothers, there exists such a being. However, we require your assistance." She gestured towards the mist-shrouded horizon, her voice growing more somber. "A darkness far greater than ours is awakening, threatening to consume us. Recently, dozens of Night Sisters have vanished without a trace, a loss we cannot afford." Sora Bulk's frown deepened. "Are you suggesting you're unable to protect your own?" "Exactly. Without intervention, I foresee only decay and death. Should that day come, the Night Sisters will cease to exist, and our ability to aid Count Dooku will vanish with us." Mother Talzin concluded, her words carrying the weight of an ominous prophecy. Vol 2, Chapter 363, New Tool. "Then, the so-called darkness you mentioned has caused dozens of people to disappear?" Sora Bulk expressed skepticism toward such an exaggerated claim. Matron Talzin replied, "So far, yes, but I sense—" "First, take me to see the warrior you mentioned," Sora Bulk interrupted Matron Talzin's words with impatience. "Very well." Talzin lowered her head, a hint of fierceness flashing in her eyes. Mother Talzin escorted Sora Bulk on a spaceship to another settlement, home to many Zabrak people. As the spaceship approached, fear was evident on the faces of many inhabitants. "The timing is perfect. These slaves are currently undergoing battle training," Talzin explained, leading Sora Bulk to a small arena encircled by huge stones. Inside, hundreds of robust Zabrak warriors were engaged in a brutal melee. Each warrior, selected for their strength and ferocity, wielded simple weapons, some with wooden sticks, others with large pieces of iron fashioned into crude knives. The battle was dangerously intense. "You'll soon see the warrior I wish to introduce to you," Mother Talzin remarked. Thora Balk observed closely and noticed a particularly fierce yellow-skinned Zabrak. This warrior, named Savage Opress, and his comrade stood back to back amidst the chaos, unyielding even as they were battered with sticks and slashed with knives. Eventually, overwhelmed by the numbers, they were forced to retreat to a corner and were knocked to the ground. "Do you think you can conceal your weaknesses from me with such tactics?" "Heh." Mistress Talzin sneered. "That's the man, Savage Opress. He possesses not only a beast-like physique, but also a remarkable magical talent. With proper training, he will become a perfect warrior." Thora Balk's interest was indeed piqued by this aspect, the original Force. As a former leader of the Jedi Order, his perception of the Force was exceptionally keen, surpassing even that of Mother Talzin. He sensed the powerful dark side force within Savage Opress, like a flame waiting to be unleashed. "Yes, this individual is impressive," Thora Balk nodded in approval. "I will stay here for a few more days to observe him closely." "It would be an honor to assist Count Dooku, but," Mistress Talzin began, "please be mindful of the predicament we currently face." "I will investigate the matter myself in the coming days." "There's no need to involve Count Dooku," Thora Balk assured her. "Very well." "That's the situation, Your Excellency Governor," Jango Fett reported during a holographic projection detailing the recent events on Mandalore to Tang Xiao. Now, Mandalorian Prime Minister Almec is overseeing the situation, but he's struggling to cope with the presence of the Galactic Republic fleet nearby. "Where are the Protoss Solaa and Orakan now?" Tang Xiao inquired further. "They're eliminating every Death Guard in Sundarli City," Jango Fett replied. "They've dealt with over 50 so far, but many Death Guards escaped in the chaos. I suggested they assassinate Prime Minister Almec, but they refused." "There's no need. Almec is merely a pawn at this stage, easily discarded by those manipulating events from the shadows," Tang Xiao stated calmly. "Moreover, the Protoss prioritize non-interference in political matters and refrain from acting against unarmed individuals. They will not proceed with such an action." Then, regarding the disappearance of both the Hermit and Grand Duke Satine had been a topic of much speculation. "The Hermit also mentioned before that he would return to kill you," Jango Fett added, breaking the silence that had fallen between them. "Hermit, wanting to kill me?" Tang Xiao couldn't help but smile at the thought, a sense of irony in his tone. "Why do I have the feeling that he is closer to us than ever before?" "It doesn't matter if it doesn't concern you. I'll send you the Hermit's mask," Jango Fett said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. After a brief pause, he seemed to ponder over his next words before asking, "What will become of the planet Mandalore now?" "That is beyond your control now. Return to us. I will double the commission we previously discussed," Tang Xiao offered, his voice calm and measured. "We never discussed any commission. You did offer me one before, but I refused," Jango Fett corrected him, his tone firm. "This time, I'm using my own resources. I just want to know the future of Mandalore." "To be honest, I'm not optimistic," Tang Xiao admitted, his voice carrying a hint of solemnity. "From your report, I've deduced many things, because I know who is pulling the strings. Unless something unexpected happens, even the Galactic Republic's fleet is merely a pawn in that person's game. Mandalore is likely to fall into the hands of the Death Guard, and that person will use them to seize control of the planet." "Who is that person?" Jango Fett demanded, his tone laced with a deadly intent. "You're better off not pursuing him. If you do, the likelihood of you being killed by him is almost certain. You don't stand a chance," Tang Xiao warned. "I will not allow anyone to desecrate Mandalore. I will not let the Death Guard take over," Jango Fett declared, his voice filled with resolve. "Even if it means death, do you consider it worth it?" Tang Xiao asked, a mysterious smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "I don't care about your plans, or if you see me as a mere tool. I demand intelligence and information on this person. I intend to kill him," Jango Fett stated emphatically. "Then, I understand your determination," Tang Xiao responded slowly, his voice carrying a weight of seriousness. "Return to the Endor Galaxy. I will give you a chance." Easter Egg Chapter Attachment 1, Savage Opress. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Vol 2, Chapter 1364, The Plan to Drive Away Tigers and Devour Wolves. Tang Xiao turned off the communication device and sat pensively on the sofa in his office. The room was filled with the presence of many senior military officials of the Fourth Civilization. Among them were the chief think tank, Helmut Zemo, the chief assistant of the cabinet, Qi Jian, the chief of the general staff, Matt Horner, the commander-in-chief of the navy, Ling Liang, the admiral, the governor of Sethwena, and Xian Hui, the commander-in-chief of the army. Each held a crucial role in the unfolding events. Qi Jian, who had been reviewing information from the Mandalorian planet, broke the silence with a solemn tone. It's challenging to see a path to victory on Mandalore. Darth Tenebris's strategies in the east and northeast have been transparent, yet he's achieved his objectives. We currently lack the means to influence the situation on Mandalore. Ling Liang, examining documents related to the Battle of the Semulus planet, expressed her concerns. Darth Tenebris is cleverly using the Galactic Republic as a shield, whether on Semulus or Mandalore. By initiating conflict near Semulus, he's drawn the main fleet of the Republic's Fourth Army into battle, achieving 3 strategic objectives. She raised 3 fingers to enumerate her points. Firstly, he's diverted our attention and that of the Republic towards Semulus, concentrating all fleets in the area for a direct confrontation. After lowering 1 finger, she continued, secondly, he aims to deplete our resources, ensuring we can't respond to other threats. By trapping the Fourth Army's main fleet on Samarth, he forces them into a fight for survival. Though this might seem advantageous to us, as the fleet could potentially surrender, Darth Tenebris has plans to prevent that. The third objective involves our Endless-class super aircraft carrier, doesn't it? Qi Jian interjected. Ling Liang shook her head. That's merely a secondary goal. His primary aim is to draw out the Republic's second galaxy army. Qi Jian, puzzled, asked, how does that benefit him? Ling Liang explained. He's manipulating the galaxy's battle dynamics, pitting the 2 warring factions against each other. While it appears to work in our favor, since Severance Tan has set his sights on the Second Galaxy Army, Tenebris's deeper intention is to shift the Galactic Republic's focus from the Confederation of Independent Galaxies, centered in the Eastern Territory, to us. Xian Hui slowly added, it's a strategy to drive away tigers and devour wolves. Exactly, Ling Liang affirmed with gravity in her voice. Tang Xiao, with a furrowed brow, inquired, how do we counter this? Ling Liang responded, the Galactic Republic's main counterattack is directed towards the east, encompassing key locations like the Laxus subplanet, the Confederacy's administrative capital, and Parmante, the largest interstellar dock, along with planets like Samirs, Felucia, and Dak. Naturally, the Republic's most formidable forces are concentrated there. She activated the holographic star map and began her analysis. However, following the battle on Semirs, both the Galactic Republic and the Confederation of Independent Galaxies have nearly lost their mobile fleets in this region. This presents an opportunity for us to reassess our strategy and potentially turn the tide in our favor. Originally, there were no mobile fleets, except for the newly created battleships, and the last power rested in the hands of Severance Tan. What does this mean? She asked, tracing a circle on the star map. Currently, the Galactic Republic is aggressively attacking the Eastern Territory. Their new policy has stripped almost all planets of their local defense fleets, effectively granting the Republic Navy tens of thousands of warships. Although these are primarily small and medium-sized vessels, they can enter a planet's atmosphere to engage in combat without any hesitation. This strategy has rendered our extensive deployment of robot armies along the defense line of the Central Star District ineffective. The robot army is unable to organize under the warship's bombardment, and it's unrealistic to expect them to adapt and engage in guerrilla warfare. However, it's important to note that while the Republic can capture hundreds of planets within a week, it cannot easily subdue those that are truly powerful. These planets have various means to counter the small warships. If the Fourth Army's main fleet were still intact, with its tens of thousands of small and medium-sized warships, I believe the Federation of Independent Galaxies would stand no chance. But now, the main fleet of the Fourth Army has been compromised. Organizing such an offensive will be challenging, requiring at least half a year to amass battleships. Matt Horner nodded in agreement. So, at this moment, Severance Tan's fleet has indeed become the only remaining mobile force in this region, and Darth Ty Nibbles intends to use the Republic's Second Galaxy Army as bait to limit Severance Tan's movements. After suffering consecutive losses at the hands of the Rendili Interstellar Power Company, the Interstellar Banking Association, and Planet Semulus, the Galactic Republic will not pass up the opportunity to target planet Mandalorian, Chi Jian explained. With the Geths and the Interstellar Banking Association engaged in conflict in the north, it's impossible for the Republic to divert the Third Galaxy Army, which is the primary support for the Northern Front Army. The First Galaxy Army is tasked with protecting the capital, Coruscant. In this region, the 12th Army has been decimated by General Grievous, and the 13th Army is depleted in Hutt space. If the Galactic Republic wishes to respond to the situation on Mandalore, their only option is to deploy the Second Galaxy Army. Should the Second Galaxy Army be targeted by Severance Tan and suffer defeat, what will the Galactic Republic do next? Ling Liang inquired. Tang Xiao nodded, his expression grave. The northern border is in chaos, with the Geths, the Interstellar Banking Association, and the Fourth Group all involved. It's unlikely the Republic will launch a significant counterattack there. The forces in the northeast border have long been scattered, and the southeast border is separated from the Republic's territory by Hutt space, making it inaccessible. In the southwestern border, the Titan battleship Swanwu is stationed in the Eliadu Galaxy. Therefore, their strategy will be to concentrate their forces to attack the Ji-Wen people in the Yagad-Dur Galaxy. Exactly, Ling Liang confirmed, drawing a large red circle on the star map around the fourth civilization's location. The plan to drive away the tiger and devour the wolf is designed to pit the Republic's two greatest enemies against each other in a fight to the death. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Website address.